Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. This is a compilation of Am I the Butthole stories that we've covered over the past few months. This video is intended for those of you who are working or driving or just need something on in the background. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from a deleted account. Am I the butthole for telling my wife that I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby? So this is a throwaway account. I will check some of these comments, but not all. So to get started, I am 36 male and my wife is 33 female. We are expecting our first child soon. My mother, who is 70, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and has been hospitalized since. It is so bad, doctors say she will not survive, since treatments aren't working well on her. My dad died when I was young, and my mom took care of me while working 2 jobs so that I could have a good life. I feel I owe everything to my mother. I bought her a house and whatever she needed so that she could live her older years well, since we had to struggle so much. When I got home from work and visiting my mom, my wife and I were talking, and she asked if you got a call that I was in labor or your mom was going to die, who would you pick? I told her I would pick my mom. She asked why, and I told her that I wanted to be there to say goodbye to my mom since I would never see her again, and so she would have somebody there in her final moments. She got mad and said, "What about her and our baby?" I told her I would try to be there as fast as I could after my mom, but that most likely wouldn't happen. So I told her not to worry about it. She was still mad and told me to get out of the house. I left, and now I'm at my mom's house. So Reddit, am I the butthole? OP added a couple of edits onto this one. The first one says, edit to everyone saying that I would be leaving her alone. No, I wouldn't. She would have her mom there. She has said she wanted her mom there with her. Yes, I was right for leaving my house. It was either I leave or she go. And I was not about to put my pregnant wife out of our house. Yes, I have been there for her. I have taken off work to comfort and help her in any way she needs during this pregnancy. Edit number 2 says, I keep getting the same question about why did I leave my house even though I may own the house. It was late and I didn't want my pregnant wife out late at night. But she told me to leave, so I knew it was either me or her. 2. My mother is in the hospital. She is not at her house. 3. I thought a lot about what a lot of you said about how I should put her first, but she doesn't put me first at all. She chooses her sisters over me all the time. 4th, I do not make her feel second. I have put my wife first, especially in emergencies, and I have tried my best to comfort her. I have gone home and now I'm thinking I don't need to apologize to y'all. I really don't know. Thanks to everyone who commented. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Miss Black to Life. It says, jacked up question, but from lived experience, my mother was dying and my bestie was having a baby, her last, that had been full of complications, and she wanted me there like I was with her first. I asked simply, can you plan to give birth at the same hospital my mother was at? I went from floor 4, the cancer ward, to floor 2, the birthing floor, the entire day. The doctors knew what was up and what I was doing, so it allowed me to be there for both of them. Talk to her and find a compromise and make a plan. She's pregnant, which tends to make one a tad more panicky and emotional. Another user down below called Crabbiest Asp said, not the butthole. I get both sides of this. Honestly though, if I told my mom I'd choose her over the birth of my child, if I was a dude, she would tell me to stop being a dick and go to the birth of my child. Let's be honest here, OP, the chances of both of those things happening at the exact same time are extremely slim, but this was a very loaded question from your spouse. I feel like answering the way you did make her angry, but if you said that you were going to be there with her and ignore your mother, then she would still be angry because you're ignoring your mother. Alright, we have 3 updates from OP, let's get into the first one now. Alright, this first update is titled, Update, Am I the Butthole for telling my wife I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby? Hello again, people of Reddit. Some of you asked for an update, so here it is. I went back home yesterday afternoon. She wasn't there. I assumed she was at her mom's house. She came back in the evening, and we had a talk about what happened. She did apologize for asking the question, and that when she thought about it, she understood my answer because she would do the same. I asked her why she asked. She said she didn't know and thought I was going to pick her, since I normally do. I kinda just said okay and moved on. I did tell her I want marriage counseling after or even before the baby's born. She asked why. I told her how I felt, and she denied it, so I had to give her proof. Then she started crying and got mad and told me to sleep in the guest room instead of kicking me out. So I guess I got a win there. Anyways, she also told me that she no longer wanted me in the delivery, which I was fine with. I understand to an extent where it's coming from. I will go into therapy, which was suggested, and I think I do need it. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for the advice. Y'all gave some good and bad advice, and sorry if my comments came off as mean. I'm not really a friendly person till you know me, especially if you're accusing me of something. Opie added a quick edit on this one. It says, y'all, the proof I showed her was messages of when she said she felt unimportant, and when I felt unimportant. I would never, and I mean never, show her anything on here. She would have a mental breakdown. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Loredzen. It says, so it started fine. She was sorry for creating a conflict over a hypothetical, unlikely scenario, and said she understood your viewpoint because she, too, would choose to be with her dying mother. And then it all went to crap. How? I worry about you two, but she is pregnant and bursting with hormones. You should give each other a bit of space until the child is born. You stay calm and reasonable and caring, and then you can see about counseling if it seems necessary when she is back to normal. Another commenter down below called Quizzy1313 says, all this update shows is there's something missing here. I'd love to hear this from the wife's perspective. There's a lot of missing reasons. I think there's a lot more going on here that we're really not being told, as the commenters are suggesting. How did this go so far? She was apologizing and saying she understood and would do the same thing. All OP needed to do at that point was say, thank you, I love you, and kinda let it go. Maybe we'll get some more context from the next update. Let's jump into that now. Alright, this update's titled, Update 2, Am I the Butthole for telling my wife that I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby? Hello people, this will probably be my last and final update. I read a lot of your comments, and I did apologize not for bringing up marriage counseling, but for the timing I brought it up, and that I did show her proof. She did forgive me and told me I was still not going to be at the birth of our child. I said to her that it was okay, and that I had accepted it, and I wasn't going to fight her on her choice. I did tell her that I think she and I both need some space before the baby comes, to which she agreed. I told her I would leave, and that she could have the house, and that if she needed anything, to call or text me. No, I'm not at my mother's house. I'm at a friend's house. He doesn't live there anymore, but he usually rents it out. To all of you asking why don't you kick her out, it's because I'm the only person who makes money in the house, and I know especially now, if I kick her out, it will be called financial, emotionally manipulation, or even abuse. So it's better a lot of times if I leave. Yes, I do plan to go back home when the baby is born, and to someone who asked, I do plan to take paternity leave. No, she does not know where I'm at. She didn't ask, so I didn't tell. Mainly because her family would be banging on my door. To people who I know are going to ask, why aren't you fighting harder to be in the delivery room? I've learned that some things I cannot control, and one thing is people. If she doesn't want me in there, I won't be. My main example is if I had gotten someone pregnant in my 20s and I said get an abortion just because it's my baby as well, doesn't mean that I can control what she does. So it's her body, her choice. Lastly, to people who are saying they need more details, I'm not used to just randomly talking about myself. It's been that way since I was a child. I've gotten better since I was a kid, but it's still a struggle. So if you have a question, give me a specific question, because I answer what you ask, not the above. And about the divorce thing, I do care if she divorces me. I do love her, but I cannot control how she feels. So personally, I won't beg her not to. I will suggest that we get help, but if she doesn't want to, then that's fine. I'm secure. What I mean by that is she will get nothing in the divorce. Does she know that? I don't know. I will try my best to answer the questions in the comments. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Outlier of the House. It says, "It seemed like OP has mentally checked out. When you talk about being kicked out, about not being wanted in the delivery room, or about the potential divorce, what you focus on was how you'd accepted it, on how you'd be secure. There's nothing about how this could badly damage the relationship, or the child could grow up in a broken family, etc. Crazy how a hypothetical question manifested into such chaos. Best of luck to you guys, whatever course of action you may take." Okay, now I'm getting conflicted on this one because she seems to be pushing him away, but he's not doing anything to try and salvage what they have left. And the last line about OP saying that she won't get anything, that's a great way to support the person that's having your kid. So many people in the comments are saying that it's time for counseling, but from my outside point of view, without any more information, besides what OP has given us so far, yeah, this relationship, it ain't gonna work. Alright, let's check out OP's last update. Alright, this one is titled, "Final Update, Am I the Butthole for telling my wife that I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby?" Hello people, I have good and bad news. So I will start with the good news. My wife had the baby on January 26th. It's a girl and I love her so much. I wanted to name her after my mother, but we found a compromise and her middle name is my mother's name. To the questions I'm going to get about was I in the delivery room, I was not. I did ask, but I got a no, and she said she had already told her sister, and that she couldn't. Hurt my feelings, which was okay. By then, I had stopped caring a lot. The bad news is my mother died. She died a week before my baby was born. A decent bit of her friends came to the funeral, and if you go back up a sentence, I said I had stopped caring a lot. She didn't come to the funeral. She made stupid excuses, and I just said, forget it. It was nice, though I am mad that she wasn't there when I needed her. So I haven't been talking to her much, so I won't yell at her. We talk about baby and her, and other than that, we don't talk. I'll bring up marriage counseling in a few weeks, but for now, I'm going to enjoy my baby and love her. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Jovan35. It says, "I'm really sorry for your loss. I truly hope that you guys are able to talk through a lot of these issues in a therapeutic setting. I also gently suggest that you consider doing individual counseling for yourself. You need and deserve to have some support and guidance navigating this loss and all of the difficult situations you have had to face. I wish you a happy and healthy outcome." Another commenter down below called Go High Sweet Cherry says, "One last thing, any sane, self-respecting human being in that childish pick-me scenario would have chosen to see their dying mother over their child's birth. She didn't go to the funeral because even though she's dead, rest in peace, she is still jealous. It's unforgivable." I've got to ask you, the viewers and the listeners, what your judgment is on this one because I'm sitting right on the fence. It sounds to me like we have two people here who really aren't communicating all that well, but neither of them seem to be making an attempt to repair their relationship. You've got OP saying that his wife wouldn't get anything if they divorced, and then you have the wife not going to OP's mother's funeral. I really don't know where to sit on this one, whether OP's a butthole or not, but I do know that this relationship is over. This story comes to us from a deleted account. Am I the butthole for telling my stepkids I'm not their mom? My husband, 40 male, and I, 36 female, have been together for 8 years now, and our marriage has been rocky. When I met him, he had twins, boy and girl. I love them like they're my children. Since it's hard for me to have kids, they are mine. My husband and I tried for a baby last year, and I became pregnant but had a miscarriage. But I think I'm just not meant to be a new mommy. The kids are 16. The husband's kids haven't seen their mom in years because she left them for a guy in New York, which is so sad because they didn't get to have a relationship with her. The twins call me mom and everything. We do everything like a little family I always wanted. When I was younger, I always used to tell myself not to date a single father, because they might be messing with the mother of the kids, but I took the leap of faith. The other day, my son and daughter wanted to go to the mall with their friends, which was fine because they go to the mall a lot with them. The argument started because of what she was wearing. She wore a very short skirt with a crop top and a jean jacket. I immediately told her no and to change her clothes because I didn't feel comfortable with her going outside like that. I don't even know where she got the skirt from because anything she gets from the mall, she gives me the haul. Her brother didn't even care what she was wearing and just rolled his eyes at me. She was pissed and upset. At the top of the steps, she screamed and told me that I wasn't her mom, so I should stop acting like it. Her brother laughed, and that made me feel even worse. So I asked him why it was funny to him, and he said that it's true. I'm not their mom, so I need to stop acting like I can tell them what to do. This felt like a slap in the face because I basically raised her, and this is what I get? The past months, they've been saying horrible things to me. My daughter even told me it was my fault I lost the baby, and she's happy I did. But the next day, I toughen up. I acted like nothing happened that day. I would usually wake them up for school and make them breakfast, but this time, I didn't. I made myself breakfast because, like they said, I'm not their mom. My son had a basketball game that day, and I would be the mom to bring snacks for the team, but I wasn't going. My daughter had a cheer competition 2 days after, but I wasn't going. And I know y'all might call me petty for this, and I wouldn't disagree with you. I've been getting up and ignored everyone. I could feel them staring at me every time. Last night, my daughter came up to me and asked me why I didn't show up to her competition. And I told her I wasn't her mom, so why would I? I can already see the "you're the butthole" and I raised my husband's kids and stuff. I told my husband what they said, but he brushed me off. I don't think our marriage is working out, and I've been thinking about a divorce. I feel unappreciative in the place I call home. When I slave in the kitchen to make them food, they order out instead. So I am the only one eating the food. Was that too harsh? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Cult Queen. It says, "Not the butthole. They knew what they said, but are now facing the consequences of their mouths." Another commenter down below called Ethery Blotsky said, "Not the butthole. Those kids are out of line. I would probably do the same thing. Stop being a mother figure since I was unappreciated by the kids. What the girl said to you was cruel. Teenagers can be mean, but they need to learn there are consequences for their actions. Only you can decide if you want a divorce, but it would be understandable given the circumstances." One more commenter down below called Fit Marionberry 3878 says, "Not the butthole. Also, you're only 36. I would not waste any more of my time with him if I were you. Take a year to yourself and try to see if it is possible to have your own family." Harsh to the twins, but they made it clear you are not their mom, and your husband is using you for a ready-made mom, while he gives no care to the fact that you don't have a secure place in his family. I'd say OP's the only one who can really make the decision here. Kids sometimes say things that hurt because they're teenagers, and teenagers are buttholes. Ask me how I know. The fact that OP isn't getting any support from their spouse, that could be a good reason to leave. Or maybe get into counseling. Well, OP did update this one, so let's jump into that now. Alright, this update was posted 3 days after the original story. It's titled, "Update, Am I the butthole for telling my stepkids I'm not their mom?" I know everyone has been spamming to know the update, and sorry I didn't make this sooner. I had to think about what was my next move. I tried to sit the kids down and talk to them along with my husband. My stepdaughter was basically on her phone the whole time, not even paying attention to what I said. Her brother, surprisingly, was listening, and he apologized for laughing at the comment he and his sister made. I asked her if she can apologize for what she said about my baby, but she just brushed me off and again said the baby deserved it. My husband didn't do a thing when she said this. He sat down looking into space, and I felt embarrassed. So I knew what I had to do. I told him I wanted a divorce if he wanted to act like I'm a stranger and disrespect me. At this moment, this was my first time getting his attention. He told me that wasn't the right decision and that we could go to therapy. But when I mentioned that to him before, he didn't care. I know this is not the decision you guys thought I would have chose, but I'm trying to figure out what I want for my life. He begged me to not take it this route, and I wanted to fold, but I know it will happen again. This is really hard. You won't even believe who cried. My stepkids had tears coming out their eyes. I don't know if they were faking it or were being serious. It broke my heart, but I can't keep living in a place I am not wanted. I'm staying with my mom for the meantime so I can get a break and clear my head, because all this is too much. If I have anything else to say, I will update you guys over here. It was a shock to me when my stepdaughter changed her demeanor and started saying sorry out of nowhere. I don't know if it's sincere or she's just ready for me to leave. OP added one more edit at the bottom. It says, edited, I will be deleting this app, so farewell. It's time to start a new life. I want to say thank you to everyone that gave me advice over the days we shared. Thanks. Alright, we've got a really good comment down below from somebody called Buttered Crumpet 09. It says, you've made the right choice. You've been their reliable punch bag, always there to be whacked when they wanted to. Your husband didn't care because as long as they were whacking you, he remained unharmed. Now they are realizing that you are an actual person with feelings, but it's too late. Your husband should have had his kids in therapy after their mom left. The armchair psychologist in me thinks that they've taken their rage at their mom leaving out on you, trying their best to push you away, because if their mom left, why wouldn't you? I think your stepdaughter also was projecting with her vile comments about your baby, and I'm sorry for your loss. Moms aren't great in her eyes, so she's put the blame on you for losing the baby. Your stepson has stuck by his sister, and they both took it for granted that you would still be there no matter what, which is why it bothered them when you stopped showing up to their events. Now, they hopefully are realizing that they've successfully pushed you away, and they're realizing that they've thrown away the only mother they've had for so long, because they're angry at the mother who left them behind. None of that excuses them, none of it justifies them treating you like dirt, and not a single bit of it justifies your husband being a useless jellyfish. He's now worried because he'll actually have to parent his kids and look after the house, and because all that crap that's been thrown at you is about to be aimed at him. He could have put an end to this, but he didn't because he couldn't be bothered. That was also his child who was lost, and he let his daughter spout that poison. Only now that things may become inconvenient for him does he want to fix things. Only now you're leaving do the kids actually seem to care. It's too little, too late. Maybe one day your stepchildren will get the therapy they so clearly need, realize how badly they've screwed up, and come to you to apologize. Only you can decide if you can ever forgive their hateful comments. And there's nothing wrong with you if you can't. In your place, I'm not sure I could ever forgive all that. But your marriage was dead the moment your husband decided not to stand up for you. He wasn't a partner, he was a passive spectator who allowed his kids to abuse you. Good luck, and I wish you happiness and peace. This commenter summed up everything perfectly, and there's really not a whole lot more to say here. Sometimes the people that we're with aren't the people that we need to be with. I hope you find people that appreciate you for you, and wish you the best of luck going forward. This story comes to us from Educational Pick 368. Am I the butthole for telling my husband that my stepdaughter can't return home until she pays my daughter back? I, 30 female, have a 14-year-old daughter, Leah. Married my husband Mark, 46 male, 6 years ago. He has 2 children from a previous marriage, Koi, 16 male, and Coral, 14 female. Me and Mark have the kids full time, but his kids live with their mom for a few weeks during the summer. They moved into my lake house, which has 5 bedrooms. 2 of the bedrooms upstairs have bathrooms. My daughter had one of those rooms, but as the girls began high school, Coral began complaining about not having a bathroom and said it's unfair. Mark and Koi told her to stop complaining. Leah said it was fine and asked us if she could turn the basement into her room. I didn't like that idea, but she begged, so I agreed. Turns out my daughter wanted a room makeover, so this worked out. We give the kids allowance and allowed them to get a work permit. Coy worked at an arcade and told the girls he could get them jobs. Coral refused to work, but Leah agreed. After 5 months of saving her allowance, she was able to buy everything she needed to decorate. Coral never even bothered to go down there because she believed it was full of spiders, but Coy was down there every day helping her. After a week, she completely transformed the basement. She invited everyone down and it was stunning. I didn't even know that computer towers could be clear. She looked so proud. Coral then screamed that it wasn't fair and that she wanted the basement now. Everyone began yelling at her, but she began crying, and before we knew it, she ran over to the computer and threw the tower on the ground. The glass shattered, and one of the monitors fell to the floor, also breaking. My daughter cried. I explained to Mark that Coral has to pay for this. He said her emotions are just high, and that we'll get situated when everything calms down. I ran to Coral and yelled, saying that she's on punishment. Mark didn't agree, but I didn't care. Coral was unnecessarily crying and ran to her mother's car. Coy was trying to help my daughter and Mark tried to hand her $300, but Coy explained that Coral caused about $1,000 worth of damages. He said luckily the expensive pieces in the case were saved, but the case itself was about $450 and the monitor was $200. Mark explained that he doesn't have that kind of money, so I said she can't come back until my daughter's stuff is repaired with a sincere apology. Coy agreed, and Mark was upset, saying he couldn't do that to his daughter. I told him to leave if that's the case. Mark left for a few hours and handed my daughter a check for $1,000. I explained that Coral can't come back if there is no punishment. My husband's ex-wife is saying that I'm banning her from our home because she didn't deserve that bigger space and that we're treating Coral unfairly. But I said she did that. There was nothing unfair about the situation. The ex just hung up. Now, my husband's ex-in-laws are bombarding him with phone calls saying he's a horrible dad. His sister even said he's being a bad parent and they're best friends. So it's really getting to him. This happened last night and he hasn't gotten up yet. Should I apologize? Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called The World Is On Fire 8377. It says, "Not the butthole. Coral sounds like a spoiled brat, and Mark needs to realize that at 14, she should have a better handle on her emotions than throwing a tantrum because someone else has something nice that she wants. She absolutely should apologize for behaving like a toddler. And Mark needs to stop coddling his kid. At least the older brother seems to have a clue. Let him stew in his feelings. Maybe he'll get some insight into why his dismissive parenting isn't doing any favors." Another commenter down below called Julia X 1984 says, "Not the butthole. He could save all of this by actually disciplining his kid and getting her therapy. I'm glad he paid your daughter back. That's what the law would do. A 14-year-old can't be made to pay anything, so it's the parent's responsibility. That's just not the end of it. By the way, he also needs to pay for a good lock for her room before his daughter is allowed back." The story doesn't say whether the child ended up going to her mother's or not, and you can't just put a 14-year-old out on the street, otherwise CPS is going to be on your butt. So this one's making me kind of wonder. At a bare minimum, when this child is allowed back into the house, Coral needs to have a lock on their door in the basement, so this child can't be an entitled brat again and break things that don't belong to her. OP updated this story 3 times. Let's get into the first one now. Alright, OP's first update is titled, "Update, Am I the Butthole for Kicking My Stepdaughter Out?" I found out the complete story and there is a lot of drama. It's over a boy. So both my daughters are cheerleaders and it's a Valentine's Day dance coming up. All of Coral's friends are cheerleaders, and they all date football players except her. So for the past month, her friends have been trying to hook her up with Brad, but it turns out he is interested in Leah. After all the games, Brad talked with Leah, so Coral came up with a rumor that Leah plays Roblox. It's not really a rumor, but Brad found out. So after school, a few days before the incident, Coral tells Brad how childish Leah is for still playing Roblox, and Brad says he doesn't think it's childish. Turns out him and his friends play, and then invited Leah to join them. Then yesterday after school in the hallway, Brad had his friends record this big proposal to the dance that included flowers and chocolate, and Leah accepted. Apparently, Coral was crying at cheerleading practice, and Leah went up to ask what's wrong and if she needs anything. Coral and her friends started cursing Leah out, so Leah just backed off. Then this morning, Coral posted on Facebook about how Leah is the favorite child and that she was kicked out of her decorated bedroom in order for Leah to have it. Her mom, Dre, has also posted something similar. Coy didn't want this to ruin Leah's reputation, so he posted everything about their lies. He also posted a picture of the shattered case and explained how everything Coral said was a lie and how Leah was nice enough to give up her bedroom. Drea also called us some horrible names. Then, Coy responded that the reason the custody is no longer 50-50 is because Drea's husband hates kids. Apparently, Coral didn't know this, but Drea sent my husband a text saying he knows how her husband feels about the kids being here, so he needs to make up with her and let her come home. Mark then screenshots this and sent it to Coral. She came home and went straight to her room. She skipped practice. Leah is on her way, so when she gets home, we'll have a family meeting. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called SpecialistBit283. It says, Coy seems like such a good kid, doing what's right instead of being biased. Another commenter down below that we saw on the previous one called JuliaX1984 said, if dad wants to keep his daughter out of her mom's house, he needs to be a parent and properly discipline her for this. He has the power to make this right. I feel like dad checked out a long time ago. He doesn't want to deal with the kids at all. He was just staring off into space at the previous meeting, hoping that his spouse would deal with everything so he didn't have to. What we're seeing here is a bunch of teenage drama from school that's spilling over into the house. This family meeting needs to go down and some boundaries need to be set and some locks need to be purchased. Alright, let's get into OP's second update. Alright, this update is titled Update 2, Am I the Butthole for Kicking My Stepdaughter Out? So, we had a long talk. Coral came down and apologized to Leah, and she was jealous about Brad. She also apologized to me for lying to her aunt. She believed that Leah got everything she asked for. So I had her explain, and the only thing she said was Brad. As I was about to explain, Mark stepped in and told her that wasn't everything. Mark then explained everything Coral got, which included a room makeover, which Leah had to pay for on her own. A brand new laptop, after Leah had to pay for her entire computer setup. He then asked, is this really about a guy that she doesn't have anything in common with? Coral then told us how popular he was, and that because Leah is a nerd, they don't mesh. Other than cheerleading, Leah is in a quiz bowl and a robot making club. Leah explained now that football was over, Brad was also in those clubs, and so are his friends, who the other cheerleaders date. Coral then began crying again because, after the Facebook post, her friends explained that their boyfriends don't want to be involved with a liar, and advised them to stop hanging with her so they didn't sit with her at lunch today. Mark calmly told her that was her own doing. She broke down and said, I know. Mark then held her in his arms and apologized about sending her the screenshot and explained that I wasn't the bad guy. She then explained that Drea told her that I forced Mark to get full custody so that we all could be one big happy family. So that, along with the Brad situation, made her lash out. She then ran to hug me, saying how sorry she was, and looked at Leah and apologized once again. I brought up family therapy and everyone agreed. Coral took the post down already and apologized to Leah publicly. I know things are looking up, but without friends and this situation with her mom, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Wait a minute, who's saying that Robot Club is nerdy? Robot Club is freaking awesome. It was at this point in the story that OP got ripped apart in the comments by people saying that the story is fake. They're saying that kids like Coral don't just all of a sudden apologize for their actions, and everything doesn't just turn out to be okay. I don't know, I think you all need to let me know what you think though, so comment down below. And if you're on the podcast, well, go to YouTube and comment down below. Let's get into OP's final update. This update's titled, Update 3, Am I the Butthole for Kicking My Stepdaughter Out? So things did not get better. We went to one therapy session as a family and it went great, and the girls started hanging out again. Coral got her friends back and everything seemed normal. However, when the girls went to the dance, it wasn't good. Brad and Leah were dancing and Coral became jealous again looking at them. So she told her friends her plan was to pour juice on Leah. Coral believed that her friends had her back because apparently they all laughed and agreed to help her. Leah had on a blush dress, so the drink would have been easily visible. The plan was for Leah to leave so Coral could dance with Brad. But as the group made their way over to Leah, one of the girls pushed the cup so it spilled back on Coral. The girl said, "Oops," and her friends began laughing at her. She ran out crying and called her dad to pick her up. Later that night, the girls had told Coral that she was just being mean and vindictive at this point, so they were tired of her behavior, then removed her from the group chat. They added Leah to the group and she told me everything when she got back. At school, Coral tried to apologize to her friends, but they ignored her, so she left school. We spent the whole day looking for her and found her at her aunt's. She was truthful with her aunt and she explained that her behavior is what caused her to lose her friends. We were there at the point and she complained everyone was against her. Later that night, Coral tried to take her life. We found her in time, so now she's spending time at the hospital. I really don't know where to go from here. My house has been peaceful and I feel bad that I feel good about that. But I hope that Coral gets the help she needs. Alright, jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Trailsia. It says, "Not the butthole. This girl is just after your daughter again and again, and Mark isn't helping by not even punishing her when she destroys valuable stuff. All the problems she has are caused by her own horrible behavior." Another commenter down below called Ragadast335 says, "Coral needs help, and from my point of view, she's as dangerous for her as she is for Leah. Be careful for the sake of the whole family." For your text, I cannot get to the point in which Coral has developed that hate towards Leah. Only that Brad is the final straw. But it's not healthy for her, not for her sister. Ask a therapist, protect them, and hope that everything goes to normal. I wish you luck. I hope everything has a good ending. This one took a dark turn really quickly at the end there, and OP almost put it on there as an afterthought, which was really odd to me. I really hope that Coral's getting the help that she needs now that she's in the hospital away from both of her parents who obviously weren't helping the situation. There is a whole lot to unpack in this story and I'd really love to hear your comments, so make sure you leave one down below. Our engagement rates have been pretty low recently and I'd really like to know what you guys think about these stories. Comment down below, and if you're on the podcast, jump on over to YouTube at KCC and comment down below this story. This story comes to us from Exciting Ice 9119. Am I the butthole for cutting my mother-in-law off because she told my daughter she hoped I had died when I was taken to hospital? I, 30 female, was in a car crash. I had to be cut out of the car. I wasn't seriously injured though, thankfully, but the other person unfortunately wasn't doing too well from what I saw before I was taken away to the hospital. I was told to stay in the hospital overnight to see if I suffered from a concussion. I rang my husband and told him what happened. My mother-in-law got the incidents mixed up when he dropped off our daughters, 6 and 11, to my mother-in-law while he rushed to see me. Next morning, my husband rang our daughters to come get me while I was waiting to be discharged. Upon seeing me, my 6-year-old busted into tears and said, "I don't want you to die." I comforted her and said, "I'm not dying, and I was very lucky." She then said, "Granny said she hoped I die so that them and my husband can come live with her." Me and my husband were shocked, and my 12-year-old confirmed she heard her say that. My husband said he was going to ring mother-in-law. When he came back in the room, he looked furious. but didn't say anything until after we got home. And he said mother-in-law denied it, but after he kept pushing, she ended up admitting it. But she said she didn't mean it. I thought me and her were close, but I guess not. I am incredibly hurt she would want that and said I wanted me and the girls to go no contact with mother-in-law. I told him he can have a relationship with her, but I don't want me and the girls to have one with her. My husband said he supports me. He then rang mother-in-law and told her what I said. She didn't take it too well. She came to our house crying and saying it was a misunderstanding and she didn't mean it and that we were taking it the wrong way. My husband asks, "What do you mean then?" She just got hysterical and started crying and saying she always wanted daughters, but my husband was the only child due to her not being able to have any more after him, and that the girls are more like her daughters than granddaughters, and she wasn't thinking properly when she said that to our 6-year-old. She got so worked up that my husband had to take her home. When he got back, he said he didn't know she felt like that and asked, did I still want to cut her off? I said yes. He said okay and didn't argue. But it's been a week now and he is still very quiet and hasn't said much about what happened. And now I'm starting to feel guilty and wondering if I did take it the wrong way. Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Laquila. It says, she traumatized your child. It was horrifying for your daughter to hear that. Bad enough her mom was in the hospital after a car accident. As a young child, she likely had a whole lot of frightening scenarios going through her mind, unable to properly process that. Your daughter needed assurance and positivity, not what that disgusting harridan said. Mother-in-law did mean it. You don't blurt something like that out of misunderstanding or as a joke. That whole hysterical outburst she put on in front of you, that was bullcrap, manipulative bullcrap, because she got caught. And it seems to have worked on your husband because she's brainwashed him that way. Stand your ground. She needs at the very least a good long time out. Do not let your husband or anyone sweep this under the rug, because doing that would make everyone think it's perfectly okay for mother-in-law to hope you died, for your daughters to lose their mom. That's sickening. I'd make that time out at least 6 months. Heck, make it for the rest of this year, so she loses out on big holidays at the very least. What a vile effing cow. Not the butthole. Another commenter down below called that hella high hobbit said, not the butthole. Why would you feel guilty? She wished you dead out loud to your child so she could have a child with woman parts. That's so beyond effed up. Hopefully, your husband realizes how absolutely effed that is and cuts her off too. OP, I don't think your husband's being quiet because of you. I think your husband has a lot of processing to do right now. I think he knows that the best thing to do is to cut her out of your lives completely. But that's his mom, so it's really hard to do. Guys don't really like to show their emotions. I know I don't, and when something's bothering me, I usually just go pretty quiet myself. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm completely not denying that your mother-in-law is absolutely nutso though. That is not something you say in front of young children about their mother. You are perfectly well within your right to cut her out completely. Your kids don't need somebody like that in their lives. Alright, OP has updated this one twice. Let's jump into the first one now. This update is titled, Update, Am I the Butthole for Cutting Off My Mother-in-Law Because She Told My Daughter She Hoped I Had Died When I Was Taken to Hospital. Well, you guys were right. I decided to talk to my husband and asked if he's upset that I decided that me and the girls go no contact with mother-in-law. He said he wasn't. He said he always knew mother-in-law wanted a daughter instead of him. And it brought back all the bad memories of rejection and hurt he felt growing up as a kid by her. I suggested therapy and he's willing to go. We are also going to get therapy for our 6-year-old as she now gets anxious if I'm not within her sight. My husband agreed that going no contact with mother-in-law is the best thing for our family. Our daughter's birthday is coming up and we have yet to tell mother-in-law she is no longer invited. Not looking forward to that. But that's the update. Thanks everyone for the lovely comments and support. I appreciate it. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called DannyVal. It says, suggestion, maybe take your daughter out of town for her birthday to a nearby attraction. Zoo, play, something on special for her birthday, instead of a party, or a party on a later date with her little friends instead of family. If you're not there, mother-in-law can throw all the witch fit she wants, and nobody will be there to see her, and there's no party for her to ruin. Another user below called Checking In on the Memes said, not the butthole. I cut off my mother and brother after they said I should have died in the car accident. If someone wishes you dead, do them the favor and get out of their life. OP, this comment right here is the one that I recommend you follow. It's just a question of saying, hey, you wished I was dead, so now you can just pretend that all of us are dead, because as far as we're concerned, we are to you. Alright, let's get into OP's final update. This one is titled Update 3, Am I the Butthole for Cutting Off My Mother-in-Law because she told my daughter she hoped I had died when I was taken to hospital. I didn't think I would be posting here again and thought my last date would be my last. But here we are. Mother-in-law has been arrested. My husband's cousin found my post and knew it was me, and she reported it straight to mother-in-law. Yeah, we know it was you who told her, Christina. Margaret told us all about it when she came over and screaming we can't keep her daughters from her. She didn't even hesitate to drop your name and throw you under the bus. So much for loyalty, huh? You are not welcome in our home anymore, and you are officially removed from Sam's birthday list and our lives. How about you show the whole family this post so they can see how two-faced you are? To the Reddit community, sorry about that, but mother-in-law has been arrested. She came to our house screaming, we can't keep her daughters from her. Husband tried to calm her down and get her to leave. She wouldn't and attacked him. My husband had to restrain her and I called the police. She fought them, but it got her nowhere except the back of their car. The woman is truly insane. My husband talked to the police because I had to calm down my daughters because they witnessed the whole thing. My 6-year-old was hysterical about Granny being taken away. This is all just a big mess. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Wile E. Peyote. It says, my daughters? What the actual F? Woman needs committed. Also, F you, Christina. Another commenter down below called DashOnMom5 says, make sure you press charges and file a restraining order. If she is actually mentally ill, that's for her lawyer to handle to plea her into help. The restraining order is needed. OP, I am so sorry that you're in this situation. Now is the time to change all of your locks, make sure you have cameras, and make sure that your kids know what to do if they ever see her again, because they need to run screaming in the opposite direction as fast as they can. This story comes to us from Creepy Wife Throwaway. Am I the butthole for calling my father's wife a creep? My 32 female father, 60s, has been married to Sasha, fake name 40s, for almost a decade. I was already an adult when they started seeing each other, so I never had much of a relationship with her. That said, Sasha was nice and thoughtful, though a bit annoying at times, and I never had any problems with her. I now have a husband, 34 male, and 2 kids, 9 male and 4 female. Sasha is very fond of my children, especially my daughter. That became very suffocating pretty quickly, so we started setting some boundaries. She never overstepped them. In January, my father and Sasha decided to go on a trip to Disney World and invited us to join them. We decided to go to celebrate our son's 9th birthday. I quickly regretted coming along. Sasha spent the entire trip fussing over my daughter in ways that overstepped almost every boundary we'd set. Examples include, Sasha bought a mini ears tiara. She wanted me to buy my daughter an identical one so they could match. My daughter didn't like the tiara, so I bought her a Donald Duck hat instead. Sasha got her the tiara anyway and was upset that she didn't want to wear it. My father and Sasha went shopping in between parks. I told them not to buy my kids anything, as we still had shopping to do and didn't want to risk making our bags too heavy. Still, Sasha returned with 5 bags of clothing for my daughter and 2 for my son, saying she couldn't resist it. My daughter wanted a Belle costume to wear at the parks as that's her favorite princess. Sasha tried to convince us to get her an Ariel costume instead, because that's her favorite. I explained that we never watched The Little Mermaid at home because my daughter is scared of Ursula. Sasha insisted on taking dozens of pictures with my daughter in front of the castle at Magic Kingdom. She also took some with my son, but not nearly as many. She tried to convince us to take our daughter to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. We refused because the prices are crazy, and we'd already bought her the Belle costume. She offered to pay, but we held our ground. I later found out Sasha tried to make a reservation anyway, but there was no availability. When we took our daughter to Slinky Dog Dash, her first roller coaster, Sasha tried to sit next to her. My daughter wanted to sit with me, so we switched. She tried to do the same thing in other attractions. At the Muppets Theater, she tried to get my daughter to sit in her lap. Sasha also tried to pick her up while we met some of the characters. There were more instances. The final straw for me, however, was the last park day of the trip. We were at Magic Kingdom. My husband suffered a minor injury and I had to take him to the first aid station. The kids wanted to go to the Peter Pan ride, so my dad and Sasha offered to take them in the meantime. However, according to my father, the line was too long. So instead, Sasha suggested the Little Mermaid ride, assuring my kids Ursula wasn't on it. Actually, there's a pretty big Ursula animatronic there. My daughter was still sobbing and hugging her brother when we reunited. When we flew back home, I told my father that we'd no longer take our children on trips with Sasha due to her behavior. He got extremely angry. He said his wife loved my kids, thought about what they'd like to do at every moment of the trip, and that we should be grateful to have her in our lives. I lost my temper at that. I told him Sasha was an effing creep, and that they should be grateful I was still okay with them even seeing my children after her actions during the trip. We ended up having a huge fight after that. It's been weeks since we returned home, and my father is still angry at me and my husband. Sasha has texted me a few times. She says she's sorry if she made me uncomfortable, but that she loves my kids and hoped to use the trip to spend more time with them. To be honest, I don't think I'm the butthole here, but I do think I might have overreacted. I believe there's a chance Sasha's actions were motivated by love, and she truly did have good intentions. Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Significant Cat 3. It says, "Not the butthole. You set some pretty clear boundaries that Sasha kept crossing the entire trip. Even your daughter seems to not be particularly receptive towards her. Also, your son can probably pick up on this favoritism, and that's not good for him either. I don't mean to do armchair psychology, but this reads like Sasha has always wanted a young daughter, and is using yours to live vicariously through. Hence why she kept trying to push things that your daughter doesn't like onto her. Tiara, Little Mermaid ride, etc." OP responded to this one and said, "My son doesn't like Sasha. I'm not sure why, but I think he gets that she favors my daughter. He's also very protective of his sister, so her discomfort could also be a reason." Another commenter below called Beautiful Story 2811 said, "Not the butthole. She sounds exhausting, but she also doesn't seem like a truly awful person. So we started setting some boundaries. She never overstepped them. Question: does she have children of her own? She probably sees your kids as a chance to play mommy if she's never had kids. She may not even be aware of exactly how intrusive she's being. Looks like there's a 20-year age gap between she and your dad. She probably thought she'd be okay with not having kids. I'm guessing your dad may have told her he's done having babies. But your little ones, especially your daughter, may have just stirred up those feelings and she's trying to compensate. I still don't think you're the butthole, but maybe have an honest talk with her, just you and her, and try and show a little grace. My apologies if you've done all that already and she's still being a pill." OP responded to this one and said, "You're right about a lot of things. She doesn't have kids. My dad doesn't want more children. And while she's defined herself as child-free before, she's also told me she always wondered what having a daughter would be like. My husband and I started setting boundaries because the situation was really bad when my daughter was younger. She'd wake her up from her naps when she visited, post pictures of her on social media without our approval, and complain about almost every parenting decision we'd make because it wasn't how she'd do it. I agree that a conversation needs to be had here. OP needs to decide if they're cutting off contact altogether or just cutting it back hugely so that their daughter can have a regular life. I don't feel like this mother-in-law is as crazy as the one from the previous story, but there's definitely signs that it could be going in that direction. Alright, OP updated this one, let's jump into that now. The update is titled, Update, Am I the Butthole for Calling My Father's Wife a Creep? Hey everyone, I'm ready to give you an update. I read your comments and came to the following conclusion. As much as Sasha's behavior towards my children angered me and freaked me out, calling her a creep was the wrong reaction to have. That said, I think it's best for my family to distance itself from Sasha for the time being. And at the very least, my previous decision to avoid future trips with her, based on the Disney trip, is still the best course of action. Sasha's pushiness, tendency to override mine and my husband's parenting, and blatant favoritism towards my daughter were much worse when the kids were younger. After my daughter's birth, she began to focus too much attention on her and almost none on my son. I gave more examples of that in the comments on my original post. That's the reason we set boundaries in the first place. Her fixation on my daughter also bothers me. When we had the boundary conversation with my father and Sasha, she told us that she'd always wondered what having a daughter would be like. She also defined herself as child-free before, so I was never certain what to think of that. Either way, that reassured me and my husband that we were doing the best for our kids. Those boundaries had never overstepped. Then we went on the Disney trip, and most of them were completely ignored. Many of you pointed out that she might have gotten carried away, or that Disney is exciting and she wanted to make sure my kids had the best experience, etc. There are two things I'll say to that. The first is that whatever Sasha's reasons were, she still overstepped our boundaries. When we first set those, we told her that doing so would have consequences. Disney or not, I don't see a reason to make an exception. Secondly, she wasn't trying to ensure my kids had the best experience. She was pushing them to fulfill her fantasy of what their Disney trip should look like. She repeatedly ignored my children's wishes in favor of her own, despite them both being very clear about what they wanted and didn't want. Sasha also continually favored my daughter, including during my son's birthday, and fussed over her in ways that made her uncomfortable. And I still haven't forgiven the Little Mermaid thing. My daughter is a bit shy and takes a while to open up to most people, so knowing her trust was broken like that angers me in ways I can't describe. To put it in simpler terms, my children aren't props, and whoever treats them as such will, at the very least, be put in timeout. I called my father and Sasha on Saturday. I apologized for calling Sasha a creep, but told them that we needed some time apart. They won't see my family until my younger sister's birthday in late April. If that goes well, they'll be invited to my daughter's 5th birthday party in May. After that, we'll slowly work on re-establishing contact. I also said that if they overstepped our boundaries again, the consequences would be more dire. My father didn't take it well. I don't care. Sasha sent me a text with more apologies, followed by a request to, at least, FaceTime my kids every now and then. I said no. And to those who said my controlling behavior ruined the trip, my kids had an amazing time at Disney World. They're both still talking about it. My daughter keeps asking us to put her pictures with the characters she met up on the wall. And my son says he had the best birthday ever. I think that's it. Thank you for your advice and support on my first post. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Tony Reigns 80. It says, "These are your kids and your rules, period." Another user down below called Canny One Moon said, "You protected your children, and that's the best thing you can do in any situation. I'm glad they're still talking about the trip despite favoritism and the Ursula animatronic, which means you and your husband managed to outshine all of that with wonderful memories. For the possible reconciliation, Everyone can act normal for a day, the birthday in late April, especially if they know there's a goalpost on that day. It's the behavior over time that counts. If they're still messaging you, requesting FaceTime calls, and calling you unreasonable despite you clearly saying you want no contact, you could begin a tally, 1 point for each request, and when it's X amount of points, they'll have their timeout extended because they obviously don't understand boundaries yet. OP responded to this one and said, "That's great advice. We don't want to go no contact, but we will if our boundaries are disrespected. Knowing my father, a tally wouldn't be well received. I'm doing my best to avoid turning this into a bigger fight. But that kind of system would probably make things worse. It might be worth a shot though. I'll talk to my husband about it." OP, I don't think your dad or Sasha need to know about the points at all. That's just a tally that you keep on your end. And when they get to the number that you've decided, you add time onto their timeout. I think you really need to take some advice from your kids here as well. Ask them how they feel about being around Sasha. If your daughter is completely uncomfortable about being around Sasha because of the tainted trust, well then, I think you know what you need to do. This story comes to us from Outside Looking In 987. Am I the butthole, 50 male, for wanting to divorce my wife, 45 female, because she caused me to go to the ER? Bit long, sorry in advance. I now see how easy it is when writing down your thoughts, as I always wondered why people wrote so much. So my wife, 45 female, and I, 50 male, have been married for almost 20 years. We have a 16-year-old daughter, and life has been pretty good. We've had our ups and downs like any marriage, but we work together through it. We have even done marriage counseling a couple of times to get ourselves on the right track. Mostly IRL stuff and feeling like roommates. When it comes to household chores, I've always cleaned the house, as I'm a bit OCD with cleaning due to growing up in a house with roaches as a kid. She takes care of the laundry, and we split making dinners on days I'm off, as I work 12 hours a day, 4 days a week. Kiddo takes care of the dishes. So herein lies the issue. My wife is going through perimenopause. She's been super emotional and a bit unlike herself for the last 6 months or so. She is taking meds to help even out her hormones, but it's taking time. One day, she is overly nice, the next day complaining about every little thing and getting all bent out of shape. So yesterday morning was one of her bad days. I forgot to set up the coffee pot to make coffee in the morning. When I went down, she was all bent out of shape over it. I tried my normal tactic of apologizing, as I had a migraine and went to bed early and just forgot. Told her I would make coffee in a bit as I just woke up and needed a little bit to get the morning fog out of my head. Typical thing for me in the morning. She didn't like this answer, so as I went to sit on the couch, she threw her coffee cup at me, causing it to smash into my head, breaking and splitting my head open. At first, I was pissed that she actually threw something at me. Like, what? But then felt liquid, blood, obviously as I couldn't see it, going down my neck. I put my hand on it, pulled it back, thinking it was coffee, then saw the blood. Of course, at the sight of this, my wife all of a sudden freaked out, screamed at my daughter to get a towel, all the while apologizing to me and crying, stating she was sorry. We headed to the ER and had our daughter drive, as wife couldn't as she was a hot mess. Luckily, it wasn't so deep that it needed stitches, and they used that glue stuff. The thing is, I had a rough childhood and home life. I was physically abused by my mom all the way up until I left at 18. My wife knows this, and when she did what she did, it brought back all those memories so long ago forgotten. I love my wife, but I swore to myself that I would never be in a place where I'd be ever again. And now, I don't know if I would be the butthole if I file for divorce because of this. I know her hormones are partially to blame, but I also know she's an adult and responsible for her actions. I guess I'm just looking for advice, wondering if I'm the butthole if I decide to leave. Maybe I just needed to vent a little too. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called AQ. It says, "Not the butthole. I would file for divorce too. That cup could have hit you on the wrong side of the head and caused severe damage." What? I hope your daughter is safe. Another commenter called Flasorian said, not the butthole. You need to make sure you and your daughter are safe from violent outbursts. I'm also going through premenopause, which makes me a little crazy at times, but allowing myself to lash out physically is never an option, period. Yeah, OP, what they're saying is completely true. Billions of women have gone through that same thing, and most of them don't throw things at their spouses. Her hormones might be all over the place, but that is no excuse for violence. Any doctor will tell you that. Alright, OP updated this one, let's jump into that now. This update is titled, Update, Am I the Butthole, 50 male, for wanting to divorce my wife, 45 female, because she caused me to go to the ER. First, I want to thank everyone for your responses. When I first posted, I thought I would get just a few replies. Obviously, I got way more than a few and was just overwhelmed by the sheer volume of comments. So, never replied, but I did my best to read them all. However, working 12-hour days doesn't leave me much free time. So before the update, figured I'd answer some questions that everyone asked. My daughter and I are safe, so thank you again for your worries and concerns. My wife has never had anger issues or thrown stuff ever. Not to say she hasn't yelled or lost her temper, normal when we've had arguments as we all do. However, she does have depression and anxiety and takes meds for those as well. Sorry if my post made it seem like I was making excuses for her. I was and am not. She's an adult and responsible for her actions. Also, some people mentioned I gave pointless info in the first few paragraphs. I figured it was best to point out that her actions wasn't due to me being a lazy husband. Okay, on to the bit long update. So after posting here, I took some time to cool off as I clearly was still mad about the situation. I took my daughter and we went for a drive. We talked about this issue and asked her how she felt. Much like most of the responses here, we agreed that it would be a good idea to leave the house for a bit until her mom, my wife's mental issues have been resolved and meds adjusted. We headed back home and I asked my wife to come down so we could have a family meeting, as she'd been hiding in our bedroom since we came home from the hospital. She came down and clearly feels awful, looked like she hadn't stopped crying since the incident. We both hugged her and told her we loved her, but we needed to talk. I told her for at least this week and maybe next week, we're going to stay at my sister's place. She could stay in the house as she works from home and can't go into the office. She started to cry again, so I waited for her to compose herself and finished. I let her know what she did was I reminded her of my childhood and that although this was outside of her normal behavior, it has caused a rift in our marriage. But I was willing to give her this one-time pass. However, she has to go see her doctor like yesterday. Tell her everything that happened, everything she was feeling, not to sugarcoat anything, so that her doctor can get her the right meds so that this never happens again. As many of you mentioned, it would be dumb of me to throw away 20 years for a one-time F-up. When I posted, I was still pretty pissed. Although it was a huge F-up, I think it's something we can work through. I told her that we needed to set up an appointment with a marriage counselor again, that this is going to take work on both our parts to move forward. I also told her that if she ever did anything like that again, I would file for divorce and take our daughter with me. That her and my safety was my #1 priority. She apologized several times during the talk. She tried telling us that she's all messed up with her hormones and the meds and she didn't mean to. That when she threw it, it was like as soon as it left her hands, she knew she effed up. I let her know that we understand she's going through a lot, but that her hormonal issues are never an excuse for acting out and intentionally throwing stuff at me. That she's an adult and she's responsible for her own actions. Blaming it on hormones or meds or other BS wasn't going to cut it. I did get a bit heated at this point. She at least acknowledged this and apologized again. So this is where we are at this point. We are at my sister's place now as I write this. Sorry again for the stupidly long post. Again, thank you all you internet strangers for taking the time to read and comment. It allowed me to vent and also get some clarity. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called HJO1210. It says, maybe you should go to her doctor's appointment with her so you can tell the doctor what's happening from your perspective. It will force her to be completely honest, and you can give your input as well. OP responded to this one and said, I plan to, thanks. Another commenter down below called Raise Ire Set Fires said, here's the big glaring red flag for me. The fact that OP had to give her the ultimatum to go to the doctor. If she was really taking accountability and apologetic, she would have already made a doctor's appointment. Instead, she threw herself a pity party, hoping her tears and self-sequestering would be enough to emotionally manipulate OP into rug sweeping everything. This is just another way of not taking responsibility for herself or her actions. This is only teaching the daughter that abusers deserve empathy, understanding, and grace. That their feelings and safety are secondary to the abusers. That second chances are more important than the truth. I just want to add, my ex never hit me until he gave me a black eye. There's always a first time. You have to decide if you're going to allow it to lead to the second. I think we need to turn this one around. If OP had thrown the mug at his wife and split her head open when she went to the hospital, he would have had the cops sent after him. He would have been arrested and been in jail. But apparently, in this case, that doesn't happen to her. There's a bit of a double standard going on here. I've got to look at this one from the perspective of my own relationship. If my wife ever threw a mug at me and split my head open, I would never feel safe around her again. And if you can't feel safe around your spouse, well, you need to get away from that spouse. It's just not worth staying. This story comes to us from Strange Tadpole 3749. Am I the butthole for not coming to terms with the fact that my wife cheated on me 14 years ago before our marriage? I, 35 male, am married to my wife, 37 female, for 11 years, and together for 14. We have a beautiful 7-year-old daughter, and our marriage has been great, without any major problems, until last year. Last year, I learned that my wife cheated on me before our marriage. One of her friends became religious and confessed her actions to me, which had me confront my wife. She was shocked that I'd learned it and apologized profusely about her actions. However, she said it's not something important now because we've been going strong and have a family together. She told me I should come to terms with it since it happened 4 months into being exclusive, and she was a stupid girl out of college back then. My mind told me the same. It happened 14 years ago, and we are happy right now. I decided to forgive her and continue our usual life. Reality was not that great. My mental health took a big hit. I realized it's not something that happened 14 years ago for me. The cheating happened for me when my wife confirmed it. I was less confident, could not have nookies with my wife. This turned into feeling disgusted being around her. I even took a DNA and STD test secretly. Thankfully, our daughter is mine, and I am clear of STDs. Then, a year of intense individual therapy started for me. I realized I needed to change somehow. I was not the same person I used to be. I also communicated my feelings to my wife, and after pushing a bit, we started going to couples counseling too. However, at the end of everything, I decided to proceed with divorce. Here are my reasonings. She not only cheated back then, but lied to me for 14 years. She did not confess the action herself. Even though she apologized, she dismissed the fact by saying it's not important anymore. Young me was robbed of having a choice. Cheating was, and still is, one of the biggest deal breakers for me. If I knew it back then, I would have broke it off. I'm happy with my life, and I'm glad that our daughter came to the world. She is the light that shines the brightest for me. One of the biggest reasons I keep living, but I still was robbed of a choice back then. Individual counseling and marriage counseling could not help our problems and my feelings towards her. It also started affecting family life, which could affect our daughter. I think our daughter would be better off having us as co-parents instead of living in a broken family environment where consistent arguments are present. Nookie life is basically dead for me. We do have nookies, but I feel like those women on films and series that just lay and look at the ceiling, waiting for it to be over. The only difference is that I'm a man. Last week, I had a sit down with my wife and explained everything I wrote here in detail. My feelings, reasonings, and some other private things. I have been talking to a lawyer for the last month, and papers are almost finalized. 50-50 custody, 50-50 asset sharing, and as amicable as possible. I explained everything thoroughly and clearly to her. She freaked out and had a panic attack. We spent the night at the ER. She is begging me to reconsider and not throw away 14 years. However, even though I would like to stay, it will result in us being roommates and a broken family environment for our daughter. Am I in the wrong here? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called KGBJ. It says, "This isn't about being a butthole or not. You're not able to deal with something, and it has changed your view of someone." Another commenter down below called AmITheA said, "This isn't a butthole or not question. You aren't able to love her the way you did before. You no longer trust her. Your relationship is dysfunctional. Therapy didn't help. Calling you, or her, after all, she's the cheater, a butthole will solve absolutely nothing. All you can do now is to make the separation as smooth as possible for your daughter." I think the biggest part of this one was that OP just found out that his wife cheated even though it was 14 years ago. It's completely fresh for OP. And then she says, it's not important anymore. Maybe not to you, because you knew about it for 14 years. But OP literally just finding out about this, it's new, it's raw, and you're gone. Alright, OP updated this one, let's jump into it now. The update is titled, "Update, Am I the Butthole for not coming to terms with the fact that my wife cheated on me 14 years ago before our marriage?" Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their ideas and input about my situation. Some people reached out to me on Reddit chat to state their opinions, and we had long talks. They have been incredibly helpful, and I want to thank them especially. Some people asked if we went to counseling together. Yes, we have been visiting a counselor for over a year now, on top of my individual therapy. I understand blowing up a marriage for something happened 14 years ago is not logical. However, my feelings towards my wife got even worse after counseling and therapy. It started with not being able to trust her, converted to not wanting nookies, then not wanting anything. And finally, I'm not even comfortable to be in the same space as her. We have been less than roommates in the last couple of months. I do not hate or resent her, but I cannot shake off the feelings. I would say I forgave her, but it's not about forgiving anymore when there are no feelings and love. I do not want my daughter to grow up in such an environment. I know how hurtful it can be. I experienced a similar situation with my parents, only the genders reversed. Living in such an environment breaks you as a child and teen. I would have much preferred if my mother just divorced my dad instead of staying for my sake. These being said, I had a long talk with my wife this morning. She has not been eating much since visiting the ER, and I am concerned for her well-being and safety. Some Redditors who reached out suggested considering separation before proceeding with the divorce and see if my feelings would change. That is very logical, actually. I proposed this idea to my wife, and she was happy to hear it. I have an upcoming business trip to Netherlands next week, and I'm planning to extend my stay and stay with my sister once I am back. My wife abruptly suggested one-sided open marriage, and I can do what I want on that business trip if it'll save the relationship, make us even, and change my feelings. I rejected because it has nothing to do with that. Even if it changed something for me, it would devastate her knowing I cheated on her in the future. It's not something easy to get over and not an easy decision. That is all the update. We'll try separation for a while, and depending on the result, I'll make my decision. Thank you for all the help and opinions. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Toadwart79. It says, "Did she ever say why she cheated in the first place?" Her proposing a one-sided open relationship does not make them even. She slept with someone else without taking his feelings into account and lied about it for 14 years. He'd be having nookies with her permission. These two things are nowhere near being the same. I hope he finds single life to be happier. OP, you said you understand blowing up a marriage for something that happened 14 years ago is not logical. You're completely wrong here. It is completely logical, because this person that you trusted for 14 years, you do not trust anymore. It's completely logical if you don't want to be with that person anymore. I'm honestly rooting for this separation to end up in divorce, because OP, I don't think you're ever going to trust her again. This story comes to us from ThrowRA Indecisive Huss. My 23 female, husband 25 male, asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later. Background: we've been together for 2 years, married for 1. We are both in our early 20s. The night of the bullcrap, we'd had an argument about the distribution of chores that I think triggered it. I thought it wasn't fair that I was doing the majority of the housework on top of being a full-time student at university and having a job. He seemed to think the chore distribution was fair and that I was overreacting. We came to a solution after all the bullcrap I'm about to tell you about occurred, but essentially, I was feeling overwhelmed and unheard, and he was feeling stressed and confused as to why I thought this was a problem. Later that night, we're discussing the situation again, and I express how it feels like he's not listening to me and how distant he's been lately. Then he says there's a reason for the distance, and I ask him to tell me why. He says that he thinks we move too fast. He doesn't know who he is, and he wants a divorce. He says he cares about me, but he doesn't love me, and that he's been feeling this way for a while. Now, I've promised myself since years ago that I would never try to make someone stay with me if they don't want to. So as much as this hurt, I said, okay. I cried, he cried. I did ask if he wanted to try couples therapy before divorcing, but he said no. We decided to sort out details in the morning. I grabbed some blankets to sleep on the couch, and he went upstairs to bed. In the midst of my sitting on the couch crying and looking up apartments, what felt like hours later, I hear him get up and come to the living room. He sits down next to me and just says, "I effed up so bad." I freeze when I hear this because I've barely processed the reality of what just happened, and I can already see where he's going next. I ask him to elaborate, and he says he doesn't want a divorce, that he doesn't know why he said that, and he's feeling the most regret he's ever experienced in his life. He says that he realized he effed up, and I don't have to take him back. At this point, I've experienced so much emotional whiplash that I'm completely numbed out. I'd already cried all the tears I could. Now was just sitting there next to my sobbing husband and saying I'd take him back even though I'd barely processed the fact that he wanted to divorce me. I told him I wanted couples counseling and for him to get individual therapy, and he agreed. I've asked him about individual therapy in the past, but he never wanted to until now. It's days later now. I've gone through all the stages of being mad at him, depressed that my marriage almost ended, insecure about myself, accepting the reality, feeling love for him, feeling numb, cycling through all these emotions over and over again at random. We're searching for a couples counselor, but a lot of them have a wait list right now. So in the meantime, I just want to know if anyone has been in a similar situation. Does it get better? Does the trust ever come back? I feel like I can't trust him at all now. When he touches me, I freak out sometimes because that's not the comforting feeling I'm used to when he touches me. It's the feeling like he's suffocating me. I want to be here for him and help him through whatever mental crap he's going through, but this has been affecting my work and my school. I left my dream school for him. I can't just keep prioritizing him above everything else when he clearly doesn't do the same for me. And yet, until now, he was doing the same for me. He's always been so sweet, buying me flowers, making dinner, going out of his way to make time for us. And before you scream abuse, please know I've been in abusive relationships before and they felt nothing like this. He's not like those guys. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. I just don't know how we can recover. Any advice about how to get through this would be appreciated. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Naive Selection 7113. It says, "My wife and I went through some awful, terrible, why don't you guys just split stuff? But we made a promise to each other with our premarital counselor after he taught us this. You never say the D word, unless you mean it, because once you say it, you can never really take it back. You will always remember it as an option. You can always run or threaten or taunt with it. The day it becomes a household word, everything you worked for is dead, and one of you needs to leave. Don't say it even once if you don't mean it." Now, was he being wildly hyperbolic? Yes. Did it help us get through the worst of things? Also, yes. I'm not saying your marriage is over, but the person you pour all your love and care into told you, he says he cares about me, but he doesn't love me, and that he's been feeling this way for a while. And I don't see the way past this statement. I had days where I didn't like my wife, but I've never had one in 11 years of marriage where I didn't love her. She is my world and always will be. I wish you nothing but happiness and fulfillment, OP. Big hugs. Another commenter down below called PBD1996 said, "Personally, I think you need to be single and work on yourself. If you got married a year into your relationship, that means you were engaged within just a few months of knowing him. Now you're sobbing over this man and taking him back in the same breath 2 hours after he said it was over. Also, just because he regrets what he said doesn't mean he didn't mean it. There was definitely truth behind his statement, 'We got married too fast.' There seems to be a lot of codependency in this relationship on both sides." OP responded to this one and said, "I think you might be right. It really effing hurts." OP, I see two scenarios here. The first one is he said it because he meant it, and your relationship really needs to be over. In the second scenario, he said it, but he may not have completely meant it, but he was using it to try and hurt you as much as he could. Now, obviously we don't know all the other details of your relationship, only what we've read here, but I want to say if I was in this situation, I would be looking for my exit strategy as soon as possible, because you don't want to be spending your life with somebody who's either A, willing to hurt you like that, or B, doesn't love you anymore. Alright, OP updated this one, let's get into that now. OP's update is titled, "Update, my 23 female, husband 25 male, asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later." 1 year ago, I, 24 female, made this post asking for advice on how to continue with my relationship after my now ex-husband, 26 male, betrayed my trust by telling me he wanted a divorce out of the blue, and then changing his mind just a couple hours later. As stated above, he is now my ex. Those of you who said that he would repeat the same behavior again, you were right. On New Year's Day 2024, he said he wanted a divorce, packed a bag, and left to a motel, then came back hours later. I'll admit, I was a wreck that day. I asked him if this was just going to be like last time, and he said no. I asked him if he felt mentally okay, and he said he felt fine. I got on my knees and begged this man to stay, not my proudest moment, and he looked at me with empty, vacant eyes and just left. I was in tears for a couple hours, but then I opened this app to try to distract myself and saw he had made a now deleted please don't go looking for his account post on the divorce subreddit about how he left me and felt bad but didn't regret it. Then I went from depressed to furious. I called my landlord and told him that I was getting a divorce and needed his help in changing the locks. My landlord was very understanding and helped me do so. A few hours later, I heard a knock on the door, and when I opened it, my ex-husband was standing there. I didn't even get a chance to tell him to leave because he immediately collapsed into my arms, sobbing. The first coherent words to come out of his mouth were, "You're not going to take me back, are you?" Reddit, I would love to say that I rejected him right then, but I didn't. Even after all of this, I was still hooked into his web of manipulation. So instead, I sat down with him and had a long discussion about how much he hurt me, how in the middle of working to rebuild the trust that had been broken between us, he completely destroyed any progress that had been made, and found a way to make that distrust even worse. I don't remember the details of what he said, but he always knew what to say to get me to feel sorry for him. The night ended with me saying I would take him back. He was smiling, saying he'd never felt so hopeful. He wrote me a love poem that night for the first time in years. Meanwhile, I had never felt so broken, and I told him that after he said he felt so hopeful. He shrugged it off and said I'd feel better in the morning. I did not, in fact, feel better in the morning. During the next few days, while I was trying to pick myself back up, study for finals, and continue going to work as if nothing was wrong, he went back and forth every day on whether or not he loved me, whether or not he wanted to be married to me. He said he thought he loved the idea of being a husband more than he loved me. My last straw was when I reached out to one of his childhood friends, who I had interacted with a few times, and thought I could trust to be honest with me, and asked him if he had ever noticed any red flags in my ex-husband's behavior in his past relationships, or behavior towards women in general. This friend assured me that he had never noticed anything of the sort. I thanked him and asked if he could please not tell ex-husband I asked that, since I was afraid of what he might do. When my ex-husband came home from work that day, I could immediately tell he knew. He opened the front door so forcefully. He sat down on the couch next to me, told me he knew, and said in a low and almost growling tone of voice, "But I know you didn't mean any harm by it." I was frozen in fear and couldn't say anything. But then he grabbed my face and turned my head to look at him, and his eyes looked so cold, and he said again, "You didn't mean any harm by it, right?" I nodded and forced myself to answer, "Right." And I knew in that moment, this man would hurt me if I didn't find a way out of this relationship. If I didn't hurt myself first with how bad my mental health was getting after dealing with him insulting and belittling me day after day. I was genuinely starting to spiral into a dark place I hadn't been to in years. The next day, while he was at work, I packed a bag, wrote a note telling him I'm leaving, and that I want his stuff out of the house when I get back. Left the note on the counter with my ring, and spent the night at my mom's. It is an uncontested divorce, filing by mail, and should be finalized in April. I started the paperwork at my mom's house that first night of separation. Since ending my relationship, I have gone to therapy and realized just how abusive and manipulative my ex-husband was. I also understand how broken he is, but being mentally unwell is not an excuse for abusive behavior. What he did to me was abuse, and I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I have reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I have started doing things that I love again, things he never wanted me to do, like wearing red lipstick or eating mint-flavored things and going to concerts. I realized I never want to be married again. I've discovered my polyamorous identity and have begun to explore this side of myself. I have plans to move out of my hated hometown that he had dragged me back to. I feel so much more joy, freedom, and self-love than I ever did when I was in a relationship with my ex-husband. I won't be using this account anymore after this, as I have no need to, but I want to thank this community and the other Reddit subs that I've participated in. If I had never made my original post, I don't think I would have realized just how awful my ex-husband treated me. Thanks to the support of the hundreds of voices telling me I deserve better, I realized how true that statement was. I deserve better, and now I have better. I also want this update to be a beacon of hope to anyone who has found themselves in a similarly emotionally and verbally abusive situation. Life is so much better when you leave. There is hope, there is a light on the other side of the pain. Thank you again, Reddit. I am finally free. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Rana Iyer. It says, "That bit about you not meaning any harm, OP, was frankly chilling. All the BS he put you through, good on you for leaving that manipulative butthole. Wishing you lots of healing and all the best in the future. Another commenter down below called Suspicious Mango 359 said, I'm glad you got out, but I'm sorta curious as to why he didn't want you to eat mint flavored things. OP responded to this one and said, he didn't like the taste of mint and wouldn't kiss me after. Same reasoning for not wanting me to wear red or bold lipstick, or any lipstick really. He wouldn't kiss me if I wore it because he didn't want to get lipstick on him. Even the lipsticks that were transfer proof, and I showed him how they were transfer proof, he wouldn't kiss me afterwards. I feel so confident when wearing red lipstick, and I love the taste of mint. And I honestly wonder now whether he really was that afraid of getting lipstick on him, or whether he just didn't like how happy I was wearing it. I have worn red lipstick nearly every day recently. So many people in the comments for part 1 predicted correctly that he was going to do this again to her. It was going to be held over her head as something that he could use as a power move to control her. OP, you may have held on too long, but that's okay because you are out now. You made the choice, you got away from the of X, and all I can say to you is congratulations. I hope life is all you want it to be from here on out. Do everything that makes you happy, and don't worry about trying to make somebody else happy all the time. This story comes to us from ThrowRA Chef 162. Will I be the butthole for telling my husband I'm not in love with him anymore after I had a brain injury? Long story short, I was in a car accident. The other driver did a hit and run. Sentencing is taking a lot longer than I expected, but my lawyer said he's probably going to have to do a lot of community service. I ended up needing physical therapy. I had a brain injury, and my neuro said that I would have some challenges. I am in PT. One of the things they said I would face is differences in mood and behavior. I haven't been moodier. In fact, my friends and family say I'm basically the same as before, but a little slow to get things. But the thing is, I don't love my husband anymore. He feels like a stranger to me. It's not like I'm amnesic, but I don't feel connected to the memories I have with him. I don't know why I loved him so much. Yes, he's attractive, but he's boring and expects me to worship him. He's also obnoxious and self-obsessed. I feel like I was the one dragging the relationship in the past. I felt like past me was way more in love with him than he was with me. And objectively, I don't know why I should care about him. I don't want to go on dates with him or hang around or do whatever I used to do with him. I've told him I feel a bit disconnected with my memories and past emotions, but I haven't told him that I don't love him anymore. I've talked about it with a psychiatrist, and she said this wasn't uncommon among patients. I told my friend, and she insisted I should tell him how I feel honestly. Honestly, I may not like my husband, but I feel like that would be cruel. Would I be the butthole for telling my husband I don't love him after my traumatic brain injury? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Lengthiness Wonderful. It says, that's a tough position. I personally would, because I've promised to be completely transparent with my husband, no matter how much it may hurt. But this may be an unpopular opinion. Before talking with him though, I would confide in a close friend who knows you and your partner well. See if they viewed it similarly or if this is just a perspective change. When you talk to him, I would let him know exactly what you said, how you don't feel connected to your memories with him, and how you feel of the memories looking back at them. His response may help you form new memories of and with him, and it would bring light to how he viewed those memories. That might help you connect, or it may give you the clarity that this is how it's been. Either way, I think it's best for him to know. OP responded to this one and said, I've told it to a close friend. She was the one that urged me to tell him everything honestly. However, I get the feeling that she doesn't really like my partner, so I might be doing something wrong. Even if I don't love him, I feel bad for hurting his feelings. OP, there really needs to be a discussion here between you and your husband, but you need to handle this with some care. Let him know that your brain injury has changed you and that you can't be who you were or who you were with him, and you now have a completely new perspective on the relationship. It's just not going to work out. I just would make sure you don't go in there telling him everything you don't like about him now, and just say that it's you and you need to move on. Alright, OP updated this one, let's jump into that now. This is titled, Update, Will I Be the Butthole for Telling My Husband I'm Not in Love with Him Anymore After I Had a Brain Injury? I talked with my husband. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I wanted to fall back in love with him. I sat him down and told him that I felt disconnected from my own emotions and past with him. That my memories with him, like I was reliving a movie, not my own life. He guessed that I wasn't in love with him, and he sobbed and begged me not to leave him. It was heartbreaking, and I reassured him that I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted to build up my emotions again and reconnect with my past memories about him. So we decided I would go back to the doctors to figure out how I can do that. And in the meantime, we would go on dates where he was trying to win me over again. Some have asked me what kind of behaviors I didn't like. When I was in the hospital, he would always crawl into bed and cram me into the corner. At our date, he talked through the entire movie and had his flash on when he was taking pictures of me. I didn't ask him to take pictures, he just likes taking ugly pictures of me. He complains a lot. When we were at the restaurant, he kept complaining about the food he ordered to the waiter. He pokes me a lot. He also whines, and he made me eat dessert even if I don't want to. And he never stops talking. But I focused on the bigger things. He's very attentive and affectionate towards me. He likes to buy me little gifts that he makes me try, and he was at my side the entire time, even if he did get kicked out by the nurses for annoying them. I know I can rely on him to be there for me, which is the most important thing. At the end of the date, we actually slept together for the first time since my accident, which was less than a year ago, but it had been a couple months since I was cleared to have nookies. We hadn't really been romantic and intimate, so it really did feel like I was with an annoying best friend, but I wanted to fall back in love with him. We used to be frequently intimate before my accident. This entire paragraph is very embarrassing to write, so please skip if you are like me and easily embarrassed by PDA. He's actually incredible, and I swear I fell back in love with him for a few seconds. I honestly am much more inclined to ignore all of his annoying habits or even find them cute. We slept together in the morning too, and the second day of dating went a lot better. I'm not fully in love with him yet, and I want to reforge the deeper connection because I know I loved him for a lot more, and I do not want my affection for him resting solely on one thing. I've started a journal of all the things I like and love about him. Hopefully, it gets filled soon. OP added an edit down at the bottom. It says, edit, to answer a few questions I got. Yes, it was a movie theater. The other moviegoers were not happy. This isn't new behavior. He always talked a lot and was in my personal space even before my accident. When I was recovering, the nurses kicked him out for annoying them, but they let him back in after a bit. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Brief Association 8436. It says, he might be annoying, but man, he's one heck of a trooper. That man sure loves you. I'm glad you're trying. I hope you guys can get the old spark back fully. Keep being very open and honest. Communicate all of your feelings. It can't hurt, and it likely will help for him to know everything. Best of luck to you both. I hope to see an even better update in the future. Another commenter down below called Captain Starkiller said, I don't mean to insult you by saying something obvious to an adult, but I feel it's worth bringing up. All people do crazy, annoying things. Falling in love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about finding a person who you can share a common destiny with. It's about appreciating their unique qualities while tolerating their annoyances, having the humility to appreciate that we all have downsides, and there are things about you they hate and tolerate as well. Love is choosing to accept those things. Love also isn't a feeling. Love is choosing to respect and appreciate someone. This is why some people fail at marriage. They decide they don't love their partner anymore, and their relationship isn't making them happy. Everyone falls in and out of love. Everyone goes through phases. Everyone changes, and you have to put effort into getting to know your spouse over time, again and again. Okay, so retracting some of my comments from the first part, OP, you're working on it and that's wonderful. And it sounds like he's trying to work on it as well, even though he does have some annoying tendencies that you were sure to point out in that one paragraph. OP, I just want you to remember going through this whole thing that you are not obligated to stay in this relationship. If you don't feel the same way about this guy anymore, then you don't need to be with this guy anymore. I do have the utmost respect for you trying to work it out and trying to rekindle that relationship. I just hope you do what's best for you in the future. This story comes to us from I Like Peaches. My, female 23, boyfriend, male 27, gives me horrible gifts and I'm fed up. We've been together since 2019. Our first Christmas together, I got him an Alexa with the accessories to make his apartment a smart home. He moved into an apartment around his birthday, so I got him a microwave, toaster, silverware, etc. His most recent birthday, I got him an at-home golf set because he recently became obsessed with golf. It cost more than expected, but I was happy to give it to him. Our first Christmas together, he gave me a video game and the money he owed me. For my birthday, he got me another video game. My birthday and Christmas is coming up, same day. I bought him a signed Steelers football because that's his favorite NFL team. He just told me the gift he got me, and this might be dramatic, but I had to stop myself from crying. He went on a solo vacation earlier this year, and my birthday present is that he printed the pictures from his vacation and put it in a photo book. This is the gift to everyone, his mom, his sister, his brother, friends, and me. He mentioned it before, and I politely told him I did not want that gift. I actually told him I would hate it, and he laughed it off. I've been telling him since we started dating that I like jewelry and would love that as a gift. He tells me he hates going into jewelry stores, and more recently, a couple days ago said, "You already have so much jewelry, why would I buy you more?" At this point, it feels disrespectful, and after finding out my gift today, I told him to just not get me anything. It literally feels like he doesn't care about me or my feelings. He calls me materialistic because I like to buy myself things, and I feel like if I tell him how I truly feel, he'll just call me materialistic some more, or maybe I am materialistic. Maybe this is a sweet and thoughtful gift, and I ruined it for him. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Darkness and Beyond. It says, "The issue isn't the gift. The issue is that he makes no effort to do something you would like. He sounds like he's in his own head. This isn't going to change, so up to you if you want to live with it long term." OP responded and said, "Thank you. I thought maybe I was being dramatic, so I made this post. I'll definitely be talking to him about it tonight." Another user called Smooth Kale is Gross said, "How did it go?" And OP replied with a pretty big one here. It says, "I talked to him about it last night. Unsure if that is still my gift. He's offended that I don't like his heartfelt gift that he sat down and put together. I told him I understand he's taking time to put the pictures in the photo album, but I do not want or deserve the same gift as his co-workers and parents. I want a gift that shows me that he knows me and listens." He started laughing and saying, "Sorry I can't buy you Prada or Louis Vuitton." He was joking, but it still offended me. I've never in my life asked him or anyone for types of brands or gifts. I don't even own it. I asked him if he at least understood my point of view. He said no and told me he thinks it's crazy. He explained he doesn't know where or how to buy jewelry and does not online shop. I gave him a couple stores to look at, but he didn't say much about it, so we'll see. I understand he grew up not receiving many gifts or celebrating things. I empathize with that. But I've been here the past 4 years trying to celebrate Thanksgiving, birthdays, Christmas, exchange gifts, and he's still not adjusting. Then I guess it's just a part of him I can't change. He keeps making comments about me being materialistic, stating I expect a $200 gift, which I have never asked for. I told him I wouldn't mind a $20 to $50 gift, and he told me I'm lying. I'm not sure where he's gotten this idea of me being so mean and spoiled just because I work hard and provide for myself, but it hurts that I'm not being heard or seen. Since I turned 17, everything I own I have paid for myself because I no longer wanted to bother my parents. We haven't spoken at all today, so it's just been me reading these comments and rethinking a lot of things. Thank you for checking in. Another comment from a deleted account here says, stop buying him sweet and thoughtful gifts, give him a framed picture of himself. You need to consider if you want to remain in this relationship. OP, I firmly believe this isn't going to get better. A bad gifter isn't going to all of a sudden be better at thinking about what other people want. He's telling you he doesn't like jewelry stores because it's all about him. He doesn't want to go into the jewelry store. He doesn't want to be uncomfortable for a couple of minutes to make you happy on a holiday. What is up with that? That's a guy that I wouldn't want to be spending time around. I don't know why OP's sticking around. Alright, OP posted an update. It's titled, Update, my female 23, boyfriend male 27, gives me horrible gifts and I'm fed up. I bought him a signed Steelers football. He got me a photo book with pictures from his solo vacation. A couple people have been asking for an update, so I thought I'd just make a quick post. We broke up. My birthday party was on the 23rd, and he told me he'd be working the entire day. When I called him to check in, he said he got the day off and was going to spend it watching football with his friends. I reminded him about my party, and he said he hates going out and already promised his friend he'd watch football. I must have said, but it's my birthday, in confusion like 10 times, before he said it's not your birthday, it's just your birthday party, and I'm not coming. I told him that was okay, cause I was over it. I asked him how Christmas was going to work, and he told me he would stop by. He reminded me that he didn't get me anything because I didn't want his photo album, and he refuses to buy my jewelry. He then told me how much it hurt his feelings that I didn't want his photo book, and said, I've never met someone so inconsiderate. This is when we sorta started to argue. I told him if the photo book came with something more heartfelt, then I'd appreciate it more, but I don't deserve the same gift being given to his coworker and his parents. I'm giving this gift to everyone that I love. Yes, I understand that, but you could have added a handwritten card or notes, literally anything. Also, yes, I said I like jewelry, but if you saw literally anything that reminded you of me, I would have loved it. I just want to know you care or thought about me. He said, for my ex's birthday, I played her a song on the piano. I don't understand why you can't be that type of girl. I asked him how he would know if he's never done that for me. I didn't even know he could play the piano. My ex in high school played me the piano, and I thought it was the sweetest thing. If he played it for me, I would have loved it. I'm not sure why he decided to bring up exes. He told me I was just trying to make him feel guilty, which he will never do. His words, not mine. So we broke it off. After I broke it off, he said it's probably for the best because he's looking for someone he can buy a house and combine his money with. I reminded him that I'm the only one with savings and also make more than him. I asked for the golfing set back and told him he could keep all the other gifts. He asked why and is now ignoring me when I text asking for a time to meet up and get it. He said it was stupid that I wanted it back. I do feel a bit guilty when I see videos of people receiving horrible gifts and pretending to love it, so I don't know how to feel. I definitely could have sucked it up, but I guess it was time for us to go our separate ways. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called UnusualPotato1515. It says, well done for breaking up with this selfish guy who does not prioritize you or care to make you happy. It's not about being materialistic, but feeling seen, heard, and cared for, none of which he did. The kicker is him being so flippant about not going to your birthday party. Screw him. Another commenter called Hello Junebug said, You suck it up if people are just simply not great at gift giving, then can help them be better. This guy is literally the most inconsiderate butthole on the planet. Glad you broke up with him, my goodness. Yep, this is what I mentioned at the end of the first part. This guy was really only thinking of himself, and I'm guessing that doesn't only pertain to gift giving. I'm guessing he only thinks of himself in a lot of other parts of the relationship. OP, the best thing you could have done was distance yourself from this person, and I'm glad to hear that that's exactly what you did. I know eventually you'll find somebody who loves you for you and is considerate of you and your needs and wants as well. This story comes to us from Throw RA Light Switch. I blocked my now ex-girlfriend after finding out she was engaged and didn't tell me, but she is depressed right now. Just want to get this off my chest because this has been a whirlwind. My now ex-girlfriend, female 28, recently distanced herself from me, male 26, due to mental health issues. Of course, I was very concerned about this and tried to stay supportive without pressuring her during a tough time in her life. We slowly stopped talking. The relationship was newer, so I didn't know her friends very well and decided to find their social media to see if I can stay in contact with them for updates on her well-being. My ex-girlfriend had told me during our 6 months that she doesn't use social media. When I found her friends online, I also found out my ex does have social media and uses it regularly. To my surprise, I find out she has been engaged to someone since 2019. When checking public records, her fiance's primary address was listed the same as hers. I was shocked and asked her about these things despite her mental state. She denied the relationship and said they broke it off in 2020, to which I presented her with a photo of them in 2022. She told me she always lived alone and bought her place out of interest for seeing new areas, not living with a fiance. She said I was being crazy and said it's none of my business. She told me to leave her alone, and I said gladly, to which she wildly kept on talking. I think she panicked and realized she was losing part of her support system. Part of me is shocked, happy, and relieved to have found the truth and get the F out of there before I get myself into a mess with this person. But part of me feels terrible for leaving her when she is struggling and most likely adding to it. I guess I will never know what the full truth is or if she was even struggling. Am I a terrible person for doing this? OP added an update. It says, did contact the fiance, will let you know what happens if he responds. 24 hours later, fiance has not responded or hasn't seen the message on his social media yet. Ex-girlfriend deleted her social media account entirely with photos of them and info saying they were engaged. She still has another social media account that is private and actively uses that. I don't have access to it at this time. She has added 7 posts to it just this week. We'll update again if fiance responds, not sure when that will be. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Chain Gun Samurai. It says, sounds like she's the one throwing herself in over her head and then expecting others to pull her out. She lied, she got caught. She isn't willing to face the consequences, not the butthole. OP responded to this one and said, I feel crappy because I did genuinely want to help her during this time and be there for her. So that part kinda still stings and makes me feel guilty. I'm working on it. Another commenter down below called SoFlirk2018 said, yes, I'm sure hiding a boyfriend from your fiance is a struggle. OP responded and just said, laugh out loud. Alright, so we know from OP's small update at the end there that they did contact the fiance, but we don't know what the fallout was from that yet. There is an update from OP, which I'm going to get to in a second, but I want to know from you guys, what would you do in this situation? Would you contact the fiance and let them know? Or would you just turn around, walk away, and put the whole thing in your rearview mirror? Comment down below if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're on the podcast, well, go to YouTube and comment down below this video. Alright, OP's update is titled, Update, I blocked my now ex-girlfriend after finding out she was engaged and didn't tell me. But she is depressed right now. I have an update on the development of this situation. Thank you for all the comments and support. I contacted her fiance, who filled me in on a lot of details. We decided to get on a phone call to sort things out. It turns out they were together while I was talking with her. They were even still together while I was visiting her place, and she would hide all of his belongings. Clothes, PC, pictures of them on the wall. She would only let me come over when he was out of town for work or visiting his family. He said he never knew about me, and she hid it very well. He also explained the following. They did end up breaking off the engagement, but he broke it off because he caught her cheating with not one, but two other guys during their 5-year relationship, one of which happened right before she started talking to me. She would send them messages, talk dirty, etc. She did the same thing with me. I also found out that the way I met her and the things she said to me are the exact same things she told her fiance before they moved in together and got engaged. This girl told me that she wanted to get married and move in with me just the same way. In addition to this, apparently, the fiance met her while she had lived in another state and was in a relationship with someone in the army. She left her army boyfriend, who she met online just like her fiance and me, to be with this guy and move in with him. The fiance said he is not mad at me for any of this and was very chill and understanding. We both agree that she is crazy AF. So it turns out she does this consistently and has made a pattern of it, almost as if she knows what she is going to do before it even happens. She knows all of the right things to say to get the guy emotionally attached to her, and then she does whatever she wants once she knows she has them wrapped around her finger. I guess once she gets bored with them or starts feeling guilty, she cuts it off and starts all over again with a new person and continues building on the lies of her past. Thank God I dodged this ticking time bomb. Holy. I thought crap like this only happened in movies. This is seriously one messed up individual. I do not feel bad about blocking her at all anymore. OP added one more little update at the end of this one. It says, Update, she spoke with her fiance after I contacted him, and she told him I lied about everything. When she got distant in our relationship together and said we needed a break, she went back to him begging to take her back, and he said no, laugh out loud. She probably would have come crawling back to me after had I stuck around to support her in her hard times. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Confident Expert 695. It says, dodged a bullet there, Neo. The next commenter, Cassandra Canmore, says, bro dodged a rocket, not just a bullet. Another commenter down below called Mila Markovich said, it always sucks to find out that someone isn't the person you thought or knew they could be, but you seem like you're handling this super well, and hopefully it won't cloud your perceptions going forward. OP responded and said, yeah, honestly, I'm scared knowing she wasn't who she says she was. For all I know, she could have committed a crime against me had I stayed in it, and I would have never seen it coming. So this story has me wondering if the girlfriend's claims of depression are actually true and not just a manipulation tactic, because it kind of sounds to me like it was a tactic. Although it could be true that she is in a depressive state because her life is always going the same way where she has to hide things from people, and I can see how that would wreak havoc on your mind. One thing for sure is true, OP, good for you for getting away from this, and honestly, I'm really happy that you told the fiance because they needed to know so they weren't continuing a relationship with this crazy person. This one comes to us from Captain Donkey and is called Am I the Butthole If I Cancel Christmas Because I Can't Afford It This Year. Title says it all. Sole provider for family, all credit cards maxed, negative bank balance, upcoming missed payments until my next check, basically destitute for the foreseeable future. My wife and I usually decorate on Black Friday, but this year I don't want to. The thought of putting up our fake tree, knowing I'll have nothing to put under it, fills me with such a mix of shame, anger, and pain. I would prefer to just let December pass, and cut out as many things as I can until I can get my finances under control. Plus, my daughter is 2. She won't know, care, or even remember one missed Christmas. So, am I the butthole? I'm already a failure as a husband and father, so what say you here? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Straggling Shadow. It says, "A very gentle, you're the butthole. Decorating with stuff you have won't cost anything, but will make your wife happy. Christmas isn't about presents under the tree. It's the memories you make around that tree with people you love. Let her decorate if she wants to." You're also a butthole to yourself in this post. Listen, debt cripples people. It crushes them and spits them out so it has room to gobble up another guy. You aren't a failure. You gotta be nicer to yourself, man. Good luck. Another commenter down below called Nomad1970 said, "Not the butthole, but just because you don't have anything to put under the tree doesn't mean you can't celebrate. Don't celebrate the presents or lack thereof. Celebrate the things you do have. A wife who loves you, a daughter who will be thrilled to just spend time with her father. No need to spend money to celebrate. There's absolutely no need to feel shame just because you can't afford things." Alright, OP added a big long update. It says, "This has spun out of control. I never thought my sad man pity party would get this kind of response. I was expecting to be called a butthole, validate my self-loathing, and claw my way out of debt by working harder. I did not expect the absolute torrent of love and support that I in no way deserve or can accept. Info, and I'm so sorry for not making this crystal clear in the original post. Our mortgage and utilities are paid. There is food in our fridge, and my next paycheck is secure, even though it, too, will all go to bills with none left over for gifts. I pretended not to notice that we weren't keeping up our pre-child lifestyle without credit cards, and I got in over my head, and now have to dig myself out of a relatively deep hole, meaning I won't have money for gifts and meals out and holiday gatherings and whatnot for a good bit of time to come. But I have a great job and an outstanding family support system who all live close by and know what debt feels like, and will understand if we can't chip in this year with anything but our presents. But it just felt shameful to have the advantages I have and still manage to F it up as bad as I did without asking for help. As for all the people begging me to accept help, here is why I can't. I make a good salary. There is no chance of me or my family going hungry. We have food and will have money for food budgeted into my paychecks, which are secure as my job is secure. I have an extremely well-funded 401k from 18 years of office work and life insurance to safeguard my family. Thank you all who are offering food. Thank you all who offered to buy my 2-year-old's Amazon wish list. She's 2 and does not have one. My wife and I had already decided that she has too many toys, and so we had only things like books and a learning tablet in mind for her. She'll be okay if we can't buy her stuff. She already has stuff. Her close-in-age cousins live on our street, and we exchange toys and clothes all the time, and both our houses are cluttered with stuff. This was not about garnering pity or soliciting charity. It was my insecurity equating gifts with love that warped Christmas for me. It almost ruined Christmas for me. Regardless of the vote here, I truly am the butthole for that. So please turn your charity to your communities, your neighbors, not some middle-class jagoff who spent himself into debt trying to prove how much he loved a family that only needed him to be a happy and healthy presence at home. You all have humbled me beyond words, beyond charity. You have given me both the perspective and the courage to seek professional help, both financial and psychological. And hopefully, it's not too late for this stupid old man to become a better father and husband. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. His spirit is truly embodied in all of you beautiful and selfless Redditors. Never lose the light. Love and cheer to all. But as you can see, I deserve neither your charity nor your goodness, and I'm going to disappear back into anonymity now, if possible, and work on me. OP did add a little bit more update on. It says, update for those concerned. I have not ever, even for a second, considered hurting myself, not once. I'm showing my age here, but Goonies never say die. Update for info, and I hope this answers all the questions people had, as there were many, and so I'm just going to write a bio that answers them all. I live in the mid-Atlantic United States. When we got pregnant, after 6 years of trying and failing, and treatments and tears, we found out that it would cost us $50 a month for my wife to work her current job and put our daughter in full-time daycare, as daycare costs upwards of $1,600 a month for even local co-ops, to say nothing of the $2,100 plus that most daycare companies were asking. The solution was for her to retire and take up the even harder job of full-time mother. I work 8 to 5 at a day job, and I pick up shifts DJing at a local bar at night and DJ private events, weddings, etc. when I can book them. My daughter was about to turn 2 and be able to start 3-day-a-week preschool for far less than the cost of 5 days a week daycare, meaning my wife could work again, at least part-time. I was in the referral process to find a surgeon to do my vasectomy when we found out that despite using birth control, my wife was pregnant again. We're due in February, a little boy this time. Utter shock, disbelief, some truly unhealthy thoughts, and finally acceptance that I was going to have to continue to be the full-time provider, as there was no way we could put 2 kids in full-time care. So once again, my sainted wife will have to spend at least another 2 years as a full-time mom. My wife and I are old people, 42 male, 40 female, who tried to have kids earlier in life, but couldn't despite multiple treatments, and only succeeded when we stopped trying so hard and resigned ourselves to the thoughts of a comfortable dual income, no kids lifestyle, full of travel and memories. Bringing one life into this world at 40 after everything we went through was a laugh, only for life to turn around and bless me with a second child. My wife is overjoyed, and I am happy but terrified of how I will afford this. She applied for part-time seasonal work to help with our bills, but the job she was hired for has given her exactly 2 shifts in 2 weeks, and taken one of those shifts away at the last minute due to overstaffing. She has a meeting with them today to find out if it's worth her time to stay employed there, dependent on if they can actually give her at least 20 hours a week, which she requested upon applying. We have had joint finances since we were engaged. We don't hide things from each other. We're both well aware of our money issues and have been working on ways to improve our financial situation. Thank you all for the links and sites. I'm bookmarking them all. We have and will keep communication open. It was our promise made to each other 13 years ago to never shoulder our burdens alone. Lastly, hopefully, I know this is long, I am humbled by your offers of charity, dear strangers. Truly and deeply humbled. I cannot accept them, be it out of foolish pride or some other moral driver, but know that your kind words and even kinder offers have softened my resolve to cancel Christmas this year. I just spent 2 days with coworkers volunteering at 2 local food banks, preparing meals, clothes, and groceries for the community. So if you're one of the many wonderful strangers who offered help, please give that help to your local charity. I have a roof over my head and food in my belly, and I could not ask for more, not when I have so much already. I still dread the thought of lugging that old fake tree out of the laundry room, but my feelings have to come third, here and always. My wife and daughter need the love and joy that old tree will bring, and I need to give them everything I can, even if it's just the spirit of the season. They deserve to feel the warmth of a festive home, and we already own the darn thing, so it's literally the least I can do. My presents will be the 1 million pictures my wife will take of our daughter, pulling all the ornaments she can reach off the tree and showing them to her with that beautiful smile she has. Our families are close by, and our parents will no doubt do their best to spoil our daughter, and I know it will be more than enough. Update, wife and I downloaded a budget app and are working with a family member who does financial planning. I, personally, spoke with someone, a professional, early this morning, and in the initial phone call, she helped me realize that I was equating being able to give gifts with showing love to my family. Not being able to afford baubles isn't going to mean I love them less, and I will need to accept that, and I will continue to work with her as long as my insurance will allow. Thanks to close friends with growing kids, we have an embarrassment of clothes and toys to sort through, and wrapping some of these items for my little girl to tear into is more than good enough for my wife and I. My wife and I have plenty of clothes. Thank you to all who have offered to purchase things for us. My heart bursts from the selfless and wonderful offers. But I meant what I said when I asked you to please point your humongous hearts to your local charities. I have more than enough things, and taking things from strangers to compensate for my poor spending habits feels wrong. It will be a tough few months, but I have a good job with opportunities to grow, and am going to work with professionals to learn some much needed budget control, and work with a therapist to learn to accept help from my family and friends when the new baby arrives, and to be less hard on myself. I'm also going to spend more time with my local food bank. I signed up to help build meal kits this week to be distributed for Christmas in my community. I'm planning on giving generously this season, just not in the consumerist sense. I think that's a new tradition that my family can and will preserve for years to come. Even y'all who called me a stupid C, thank you too for keeping me grounded. To those of you who have asked how could I have tried for 6 years to have a kid and not bothered to budget for it once it came, are greatly underestimating how much fertility treatments cost, even with insurance, and how well and truly effed American healthcare really is. Alright, OP posted one more update a couple weeks later. It says, update, am I the butthole if I cancel Christmas because I can't afford it this year? So it's been 2 weeks and somehow the messages are still coming in. Thankfully, the offers of charity have stopped. Here's hoping they were redirected to their communities. But a good deal of them asking whether or not I stopped being a Grinch and started being a good husband and father again. So to get those people placated, first, here you go, I decorated. I also spoke with a financial advisor who is helping me set up a budget for 2020, and a counselor who helped me realize that I was worth more than the goods I could offer someone. She recommended 2 separate therapists to me, and neither are taking new patients before the new year. So for now, my wife and I are working on our budget and cleaning out various corners of the house for things to sell. So far, we've gotten rid of some unused basement furniture, a mini fridge that has been empty for 2 years, a bunch of wine racks, and paraphernalia we don't drink at home since the baby was born 2 years ago, so no need to keep it all around. As well as some other things, and made about $750. More than enough to pay all the overdue bills, put some money in savings and groceries in the cupboard. It's going to be a long road to pay off this credit card debt, but we're finally addressing the issue head on and moving in the right direction. Since my last paycheck that covered mortgage and utilities, no worries there for those who asked if I was behind, thank you. I have also been offered and taken 3 DJ gigs for holiday parties. 2 for personal friends, acquaintances, businesses, 1 for a charity. I refused payment for the children's charity gig, instead offering to give the money right back to the kids instead, which was gratefully accepted by the organizer. The extra cash from the 2 paying gigs paid down some more debt, and was enough left over to allow me to have bought some nice new books and a Moana doll for my little girl to open on Christmas morning. To say nothing of the bags of presents from both sets of grandparents full of clothes and toys, so she'll be fine from a present standpoint. Inspired by everyone's offers of charity, I volunteered again at Paul's Place in Baltimore, where this time I donned the hairnet and apron and served hot meals. Cell phones are prohibited inside, plus taking photos of yourself doing charity work defeats the purpose of said work. I also organized a food drive at my office to provide meal kits for Christmas for needy families, and we were able to donate 574 pounds of food to the MD Food Bank. Thank you to all who reached out and made me realize that I really was a butthole. I let my personal shortcomings almost ruin a holiday for my wife and child. It won't be as fancy as our last Christmases, but I have a feeling that this year will be very special to me, no matter how little is under my tree. I realized that I have all the gifts I need, and I cannot thank the beautiful people who offered up so much charity to a grumpy stranger. I didn't need to accept your gifts to accept your love, and the offers alone changed my life. Happy holidays, y'all. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user with a deleted account. It says, "This is such a lovely update. I'm really glad you're taking steps to care for your mental health. You are worth it. I can tell you firsthand that I grew up without very much materially as a kid, and I really didn't care about lots of presents or how fancy the trappings of the holiday were. The best present you can give your little one is a happy parent and memories filled with love. It sounds like you also have a really good heart, so I imagine you'll bring your kiddo up with the right spirit about the holidays, which is giving to others and finding joy in the people you care about. I hope you and your family have such a wonderful Christmas, and thank you for this extremely heartwarming update." This is such a heartwarming story for the holidays. A person who thought that there wasn't any hope left, that they would just have to cancel Christmas altogether. But through the hearts of all the Redditors that normally are a bunch of cantankerous people, sorry, they all came together and showed OP that it's not about the things under the tree, it's about the family and the things you can do together and the time we have with each other. That right there, we don't get more of. Time is the best thing we can give each other. So for any of the listeners out there who are struggling this Christmas thinking that there's not going to be enough under the tree, I hope you take this story to heart and take the change that we saw in OP and see if you can apply that to your life, because your time is your most precious gift. This story comes to us from Throwaway BF Pranked Me. My boyfriend and our circle of friends pranked me on my birthday, and I ghosted them because of it. Throwaway because my coworkers know about my main Reddit account, and I don't want them to know about this issue of mine. I, 27 male, met my probably soon-to-be ex-boyfriend Alex, 29 male, 2 years ago through a mutual friend of ours. I never expected he'd be interested in me because, when I first met him, he had only been with women. He came out as bisexual to me and our friends not too long after that, and that same night, he hinted that he was into me. We got to know each other more, and it eventually turned into the two of us dating. He's genuinely a sweet and awesome guy. Quite introverted, but has a big heart and a real geek about the things he likes. I thought he'd be the one I would be marrying, and all that. But I'm thinking that's not going to happen anymore. Last Monday was my birthday, and I went home early from work so that Alex and I can go out and enjoy ourselves. I told him earlier that day that I would go home early. When I opened the door, I was greeted by him laying on our couch while a woman I didn't know was on top of him. They were fully clothed, by the way. I was basically paralyzed and couldn't react at all. He eventually saw me and had a surprised look on his face, but he also looked like he was trying to hold his laugh in. The woman also looked like she was about to laugh as well. I also started to hear chatter from the kitchen and in our bedroom. Alex then shouted, "You guys can come out," and so our friends came out of our bedroom and kitchen holding gifts, party poppers, and a cake. I guess them shouting, "It's a prank, happy birthday," while turning the party poppers on snapped me back to reality, because after they said that, I just quietly turned around and left. I didn't see their reactions when I did that, but I could hear them saying, "Oh crap," and "Wait," and some other things I can't remember. When I heard them try to follow me, I hastened my pace until I reached my car and drove away. While driving, my phone started to get bombarded by texts, calls, and messages from my boyfriend and our friends. When it got too distracting, I just turned off my phone and went to a hotel that's far enough from my place. By the time I got to my hotel room, I just started sobbing on the floor. I think I blacked out from crying because when I woke up, it was already sunny outside. I made sure to tell my team leader first that I would be absent for a few days due to an emergency, and she was kind enough to accept my request. She probably noticed something was off with me because I was sniffling and my voice sounded weak. Right now, I plan on telling my aunt who lives near my area about what happened and asking if I can live with her for a couple days until I sort out my mind and know what I have to do next. I'm deeply heartbroken because I've told my boyfriend and my friends before how I felt about cheating and how it essentially ruined my family growing up and my young mind back then. My mom cheated on my dad and it broke our family, and I got cheated on by my first boyfriend. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I overreacted and that I should have just went with it all. I still don't plan on opening my phone, so I'm using my laptop right now to type this. I don't know how to face and respond to them all after all that has happened. Maybe some time away from them will help? I hope. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called AmITheA. It says, "Stuff like this is just mental. Why would anyone think that's a funny prank? Especially your partner. Not only that, how could your partner tell other people that this was their plan and they also agreed that this would be funny?" Another commenter down below called Heart2001 said, "Oh, you poor thing. A good prank should confuse, never abuse. The person being pranked should end up laughing as much as everyone else. This was not a prank. This was people that you trust taking your trauma and using it against you for their own amusement. You are not overreacting. Anyone who is willing to be so callous and cruel for a joke is not worth keeping in your life." So these are people that you supposedly trust and you told them about your previous traumas and they used it against you to prank you. Aha. I think it's time not only for a new boyfriend, but for a completely new friend group, because it sounds to me like those really aren't friends. On to OP's update. This one's titled, "Update. I finally got to talk to my friends and my boyfriend after I ghosted them because of a prank. And I'm glad I did." Hi there. I'm sorry it took me a while to post an update. I've been busy and I also got back to working 2 days ago, so I don't really have that much free time on me anymore. But before I get started with the actual update, I would like to thank everyone who has given me their advices and wisdom, along with those who wished me well and a belated happy birthday. You folks really made me feel happy even after all that has happened. I never thought internet strangers could be so kind. Normally, I confide with my friends whenever I had a problem, but since they somehow became a part of that problem, I thought maybe going here would be a good idea. And I guess it was. Truly, thank you to all of you. Although, even if almost all of you had nothing but great advice and nice things to say, there were some who were skeptical or were even harsh, specifically in the way I just ghosted my boyfriend and everyone at that surprise party. Truth be told, I could have done something more mature, as some would say, but really, in that moment, all I could think was remove myself from that situation, because I wouldn't know what I would do if I fell back to my old self. Also, sorry for any typos, I wrote this all on my phone. For context, I found out my mom was cheating on my dad at 14 years old. I got home from school early and found that the house was empty. I went upstairs to go to my room, but as I got nearer to my parents' room, I heard these faint sounds of nookies, and it didn't help that the door to the room was slightly opened. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to take a peek inside. And there she was, my own mom, cheating on my dad with his coworker. I felt like I was going to be sick, like it was some sort of nightmare. I froze there for a few seconds before my dad's coworker noticed me and immediately alerted my mom that I was watching them. When my mom finally realized what happened, she started calling me out and tried to follow me, but I got to run to my room and locked it before she could catch me. My mom was frantically calling out my name and knocking hard on the door, but all I could do was cry. The realization that the person I was calling my mom wasn't the person I thought she was hit me like a ton of bricks, because I used to adore my mom. She was always around while my dad was working full-time, which made me resent my dad because he was never around. I remember hiding in my bedsheets and eventually falling asleep. I was woken up by my dad knocking on my door and calling me to come out. I had to comply, of course, and when I opened my door, my father was standing in front of me with my mom behind him. He gave me a tight hug and asked me about the guys who bullied me while I was walking home from school. And I was confused when he mentioned that. But then I saw my mom looking mad at me and basically telling me through her face that I should go along with it. As much as I hated it, I went along with it because I didn't want to hurt my dad. Since then, I've decided to fully ignore my mom unless it was for a chore or something important. And when I moved out at 18, I made sure to go no contact on her and only talk to her when my dad wanted me to. My mom and dad eventually divorced after I moved out. Turns out he always knew but didn't want to do anything about it until I moved out, because he didn't want me to live in a household riddled with arguments and stress brought upon by divorcing couples. It didn't really work, but I appreciate my dad for still looking out for me even if he was hurting. Then, when I was 19, I got into my first ever relationship. We had a pretty nice start and we were each other's first. But when I found out he was cheating on me, things got really ugly. I know this is not an excuse, but I was young and didn't know how to handle that information when I got it. And knowing how much I hated cheating, I basically went crazy on him and turned to destroying his stuff, deleting all copies of his thesis, and even went as far as doing this insane Facebook rant where I exposed his cheating and posted pics of him and the guy he was cheating on me with, and even mentioned his mom and dad in the post, outing him without his consent. I deleted the post just 2 days after, but the damage has already been done, and my ex ended up moving away and living in another area because of my post. Obviously, I am thoroughly embarrassed and ashamed of what I've done, and I still regret doing all of that. When my aunt found out about what I did, she gave me a pretty stern scolding and insisted that I had to get checked by a psychiatrist because what I did isn't normal, and it's not. And I got diagnosed with severe depression, and the doctor also said I had some unresolved trauma, which confused my aunt. But after telling her what happened 6 years ago, she fully understood why and gave me a tight hug and cried after spilling everything to her. She felt bad because she wasn't able to do anything to help me before, and now is extremely mad at her sister, my mom, for doing all of that to me. Ever since then, my aunt has helped me get the therapy and meds that I need, and essentially turned into my mother figure. My ex and I don't talk much these days, but we have made amends and are on good terms now. Now that all this stuff from my past has been finally laid out for those wondering why I did what I did, here's the actual update. After I submitted my original post, I packed my things that night and prepared to go to my aunt's house, which wasn't that far, but still a bit of a drive nonetheless. When I finally got there, she was incredibly welcoming, and I thanked her for allowing me to stay in her house, even just for a while. She gave me a tight hug and told me I was always welcome, and that she will be there to help me when I need her to. She eventually led me to the spare bedroom that they have in their house and helped me unpack my stuff. She is honestly such an incredible woman, and I love her so much. She's basically the mom I've always wanted. Once I was done unpacking, I was again confronted by the fact that I haven't opened my phone for quite some time now. I've avoided it for so long that I didn't think I could open it again, but I knew I had to. The moment my phone booted up, hundreds upon hundreds of texts, chats, and missed calls popped up on my screen. Even if I was still hesitant, I decided to open my chats and looked at our friend group's group chat first. The chats from the start were all very frantic in nature, with my friends asking about where I was or what happened. But after scrolling down a few more times, the chats turned into them apologizing that the prank happened and that it was not on the plan at all. One of my friends even blamed the girl that was on top of Alex, my boyfriend, and thought she was untrustworthy. Finally, the chats ended up being them hoping they could contact me and wishing I was safe. I guess they knew I just read their chats because as soon as I was done back reading, my friends immediately knew I was online and asked how I was doing and where I was. They also started apologizing again for not being able to stop the prank from happening, and that they didn't know that was going to happen and thought the original prank was going to be something else. At this point, I was thoroughly confused because they seemed happy enough to be there during that night, but I knew I had to apologize to them first for ghosting them and asking their side of the story first before speaking about what had happened. Essentially, they were simply planning a surprise birthday party for me with Alex in a group chat that didn't include me. Then, my boyfriend added a few more people into the group chat saying that they were college friends of his and he wanted them to be a part of the surprise party too, since they always wanted to meet and get to know me better. As a suggestion, one of my boyfriend's college friends pitched the idea of them pranking me. The plan was, my boyfriend is going to be on the couch with a serial killer holding a knife and fake stabbing my boyfriend while the killer was on top of him, and while my boyfriend is bleeding everywhere. My boyfriend's college friends thought it would be funny to see my reaction, although my friends were initially skeptical. They reassured them that it would be harmless fun and that once my boyfriend and the friend who will be acting as the killer got their desired reaction on camera, they can just tell me that it was all a prank, and my friends and my boyfriend's other college friends would come out and surprise me with their gifts and stuff. My friends eventually agreed so long as they don't drag out the prank and immediately reveal everything once they captured my reaction on camera. The day of my birthday comes and everything they've planned seems to be going smoothly with them waiting for me. My boyfriend's college friends ushered everyone to hide while they set up the prank, and when it was done, they would hide too. When they finally heard my boyfriend say they can come out, they thought the prank was a success because I looked absolutely mortified, but they knew something was up when even after the prank was revealed, I was still looking shocked and almost teary-eyed even until I finally turned around and left. They were understandably shook and confused, thinking the serial killer prank was too much, but knowing me, I wouldn't have minded it at all since I love scary movies and an avid horror enjoyer. It was then they realized that my boyfriend's female college friend was on top of my boyfriend, not wearing any serial killer costume and not holding any fake bloody knife. They then saw my boyfriend pushing his female college friend away from him and chasing after me. Some of them also tried to follow me, while some were asking what happened to the original plan. Even my boyfriend's other college friends were wondering why their female friend wasn't in costume, but she was just silent. After a few minutes, my boyfriend came back to our apartment looking distraught and crying. He then tells everyone they should all go and proceeds to go to our bedroom. They wanted to ask him what happened, but he shut the door before they could. His female college friend then followed him inside, which really weirded them out. But after a while, they hear my boyfriend shouting at her, telling her to F off. She then goes out the door on the verge of tears and leaves the apartment. They said everything happened so fast that they didn't know how to process all that has happened. Not too long after that though, they realized that I was missing and started calling and texting me, but I didn't respond to any of them. Eventually, I was unreachable. I turned off my phone and decided they should just go home and wait for me to respond. My boyfriend's college friends apologized profusely to what has happened and didn't mean for any of this to happen, but they basically just ignored them. They then followed their retelling of their side with videos that they've recoded that prove their accounts, along with an apology and a wishing that I was doing well. After my friends told me what happened on their point of view, I felt really terrible and apologized again for ghosting them and telling them that everything that happened was none of their fault. I told them that I would make it up to them soon, but they reassured me that they accept my apology and are just happy that I'm alive and well. They also pitched to have a late birthday celebration with me this weekend, and my boyfriend and his friends aren't included this time. I, of course, happily agreed and thanked them for being such great friends, and that I really couldn't thank them enough for being such an awesome bunch of people. The morning of the next day, my aunt knocks on my door and wakes me up, telling me that I have a visitor downstairs. She looked a bit mad, so I can already tell who it was. It was my boyfriend Alex, carrying this beautiful bouquet of flowers and my favorite chocolates with him. Even if he looked amazing, his face was the complete opposite because he looked like he was crying for days. I asked him how he found out about where I was, and he told me that once I turned on my phone again, an app on my phone that we both have notified him of my whereabouts. It's basically an app that allows you and your trusted friends to share your locations in real time, as long as you have an internet connection and your location is on. I was a bit frustrated that he actually came here to my aunt's house, but nevertheless, he was already there, so might as well just hear him out on what he had to say. He basically reiterated what my friends told me, but he added in some more details that my friends didn't know about. Apparently, his old college friends reconnected with him after he lost touch with them after they graduated. They found his Facebook account through some searching and wanted to ask him about his life after all these years. They were especially happy when he told them that he currently has a boyfriend because they secretly knew he was bi, but didn't want to make assumptions or make him feel weird about it. Alex eventually tells them about me, and he mentions that him and our friends are planning a secret birthday surprise for me, and they immediately wanted to be a part of it. After they were added to the group chat, they started suggesting ideas on how to make the surprise much more fun. Until their female friend, we'll call her Anna, suggested they do a prank to surprise me. Alex's college friends were immediately on board because they saw TikToks of it and thought it was really funny, but my friends were obviously skeptical. Eventually, they agreed what the prank is going to be and that the prank wouldn't take too long. Anna volunteered to be the serial killer since it was her idea, and they all went and did their parts of the surprise so that everything would be ready when my birthday comes. The day of the surprise party comes and everyone prepares for my arrival. When Anna and Alex went into their assigned positions for the prank, he wondered why she still wasn't in her costume and that her props were missing, but all she could reply was that she forgot. Alex offers to find the costume and props, but Anna insists there's no more time and that I was going to arrive soon. Alex at this point was extremely uncomfortable and wanted to get out of that position, but before he could do it, I've already opened the door and saw them. He admits that he effed up by laughing a bit at my reaction because it was exactly the reaction he thought I was going to make, but immediately realized what it looked like and called everyone to come out to save himself from the embarrassment and give context to what I was seeing. When he realized that that didn't work, he forcefully pushed Anna away to chase after me, but he wasn't able to keep up once I got into my car. It then sunk into him that he effed up big time, and that when I drove away, that's when he remembered my trauma about cheating, which made him cry while returning to our apartment. He tells everyone to leave and retreats to our bedroom, not really knowing what to do. To his shock, Anna comes inside our room unannounced and starts comforting Alex. He repeatedly tells her to leave and that he'll be fine, but what really set him off was Anna asking him, "So, does this mean you're single now?" That's when he realized she did it on purpose. Alex then shouts at her and angrily asks her to leave, which she then complies to after looking like she just embarrassed herself. Alex is in tears at this point and he tells me that he wishes he just didn't agree with the prank. He's cut off contact with his college friends for now and is incredibly sorry about what happened. He then starts hugging me really tightly and says that he loves me so much and that he's scared of losing me. His words alone also made me cry because even after everything, I still love him deeply, and I do believe everything he said. After a minute or two of us hugging and crying, he lets go of me and tells me that we should go back together to our apartment, but that if I still need time and space, he'll gladly give it to me. I gave him a kiss and respond to him asking him to help me pack my stuff. Of course, I gave my aunt the warmest of hugs and told her how much I appreciated her for helping me. She was happy things got resolved, but also jokingly threatened my boyfriend that if he did something stupid or hurtful to me again, she'd personally whisk me away to safety and away from him. My boyfriend laughed, but I think he was just hiding his nervousness. Now I'm back in our apartment, and Alex even offered to throw away the couch that was used for the prank, but I declined since it's a pretty nice couch, and everything that has happened was something no one wanted, aside from Anna probably. I've already made amends with my boyfriend, and we've both forgiven each other, and my friends are happy that things worked out in the end. Alex is probably now invited to the weekend party, but I've yet to ask them. Don't worry, I'm also going to get in touch with my therapist soon and book new appointments with her per the suggestion of my aunt. This has all taken a toll on me, but I'm glad to have the support of my boyfriend, my friends, and everyone who has read my post and shared their support to me. Also, I realize that this update is probably not what most of you wanted to happen, and as much as I was close to just giving it all up, I never had a reason to in the end. And I'm glad I got to hear their sides out before making any huge decisions that I might end up regretting later. And I do trust my boyfriend and my friends since they all sounded sincere and they did have proof to back them up. I think this is going to be my last update since everything seems to have been resolved at this point, but I'll try to make an update if ever something happens. But I hope that's not going to be the case. Once again, thank you, everyone. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Shelly895. It says, and the serial killer prank is better how? How old are these effing people? Another user down below called Aggravating Secret 7 said, can I talk to you like a mama? Because it sure sounds like you need one, or at least an older sister. You need some good kinfolk around you right now. You have nothing to make up for. You suffered a trauma-based response, and that was to run. Some of us fight, some of us flee, some of us freeze, and some of us fawn. You ran, and that's okay. A simple apology is fine, and that's all you needed to do. If they are decent people, they'll understand and give you grace. Let me talk about Alex for a second. He can bring you all the flowers he can buy and say all the right things, but his actions need to speak as loudly as his words. He needs to block Anna on all social media platforms. On his phone, his email, go completely no contact. She knew what she was doing, and this was an intentional move on her part. It's not necessarily Alex's fault for not seeing it for what it was, but he needs to understand her motives, and she wants him. It's absolutely fine to accept apologies and give apologies and move on. But remember that an apology is a verb. It requires actions and not just words. Also, I'm with your aunt on this one. If Alex F's up again, I'm gonna catch a felony charge. My trauma response is fight. One more comment down below goes to the other side of this one. It's from a user called My Username is Meh. I'm gonna go against everyone else here and say your friends and boyfriend are trash for even agreeing to the serial killer prank, and you shouldn't forgive them so easily. I don't care what people have to say to me after this. You say you love horror and all that, but that doesn't matter. I love horror too. But no matter how much someone loves scary crap, if a person went home and found their loved one dead at the hands of a killer, it wouldn't be a funny prank. That crap is horrifying. It causes extreme distress. But then, suddenly, everyone is laughing and saying it was a prank. Someone should have said, no, F this, I'm out. It wasn't a funny prank. It was psychotic, and they're all effing idiots who panicked because you didn't find their bullcrap funny. I 100% believe the killer prank is made up and everyone agreed to a cheating prank. Your boyfriend is a piece of crap, and so are your friends. OP, I'm sitting back here thinking about this one going, okay, your boyfriend allowed this woman to climb on top of her, no serial killer clothes or props in sight, and was just okay with that happening. Didn't just say right away, no, this isn't what I signed up for. So something's going on there. I'm kinda happy you guys got back together because it sounds like you really still want to be in that relationship. But going forward, if something like this happens again, or even a hint of something like this happens again, you need to exit stage left as soon as you possibly can. This story comes to us from No Decision 913. Am I the butthole for leaving my boyfriend when his ex died, leaving him to take care of his kids full time? I, female 26, have been with my boyfriend, male 30, for 2 years now. He has 2 kids, male 6, female 4, with his ex-girlfriend. She moved to another state with the kids to be near her family when they broke up 3 years ago. He got them on vacations only. I knew all this when I started dating him. I had no issue with this, but told him forefront I can't be a parent. I was parentified by my mom and raised my 5 younger siblings. The oldest of them is 6 years younger to me, and I had to change his diapers and feed him formula. I went low contact with my family when I left home at 18. I can't imagine doing that again. He was also snipped after last kid and didn't want more kids. He was fine with me not wanting to be a parent and just be a bonus adult. We were taking it slow, and I didn't even meet his kids until a few months back. We took a trip together and got along great. Things changed 2 months ago when his ex died. Kids were really crushed as they moved into his house. We were not living together, but he asked if I could move in to help him out just for a while. I couldn't refuse and stayed, but I started hating it again. I hated how clingy the kids became and how much responsibility I had. I did my best, but my mental health started getting worse every day. I didn't even get help from my boyfriend because he was struggling too. Last week was especially bad since younger kid had a cold and wanted me to nurse her back to health exactly as her mom would have. The soup wasn't the same. The song and story wasn't told the same way. I didn't hug her the way her mom did, etc. were some of the long list of complaints. I know she is grieving, but I was already working from home and stressed too. When I told my boyfriend he should take over, he said they need me more since I am a mom. It triggered me. I didn't want to be held to a mom's responsibilities again. I told him I can't do this. He said I need to stop acting like a child and step up. I understood if I stayed, my whole life would be like this, never measuring up, never being enough, and all the responsibilities of a mom. I left yesterday, moved in with a friend. My boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, is blasting my phone, calling me a butthole. Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, this is very one-sided, as it kinda should be. The first one comes from a user called La Luna Lady 1960. It says, "When I told my boyfriend he should take over, he said they need me more since I'm a mom. Not the butthole. And good on you for moving out. You shouldn't have to be unwillingly parentified a second time. It does look like he planned on making you the main parent instead of himself." Another user called Glittering Season 117 says, "Not the butthole. As heartbreaking as this all is, this isn't what you signed up for. And you were upfront with him from the beginning about not wanting to be a parent. Had you stayed, your mental health would have continued to decline. And sooner or later, the kids would have picked up on the resentment you would undoubtedly feel. Kids don't deserve that, and neither do you. OP, I don't see anything wrong with you getting out of that situation. You set your boundaries early on, and this isn't what you signed up for. Maybe you leaving will actually be a good thing for those kids, because your ex will be able to find somebody who maybe wants kids and can look after them in the way that a parent should." OP posted an update, let's jump into that now. Alright, OP's update is titled, "Update, am I the butthole for leaving my boyfriend when his ex died, leaving him to take care of his kids full time?" Last few days were chaotic and full of confusion, to say the least. I didn't answer a lot of questions, and I'm sorry to all of you for that. I was not in the right state of mind and was overwhelmed by all the replies. As is human nature, all the reasons I was a butthole and cold-hearted B messed with my mind a lot. To answer a few questions, 1, I didn't leave without goodbye. I had told the kids goodbye. I didn't want to cause too much strain and said I was leaving for a while for work. I did just tell my ex I was leaving. I couldn't take another round of stop acting like a child and grow up. 2, I don't normally work from home. He asked me to stay home with his daughter, stating he doesn't know how to take care of a sick kid. She really was sick at first, and I went along with it, but he refused to help even in the evenings. 3, most of your assumptions about him was true in the sense I almost always ended up looking after the kids alone. He rarely did his part. It was either he was exhausted, he couldn't face them, he didn't know how to deal with their grief, or I did it better. It was not what we agreed upon when I moved in to help. I was supposed to help him, show him the ropes, but I ended up feeling like a single mom. 4, as a parent, he got custody. His ex's parents said that was for the best since they were already retired. They did not want to raise the kids. Anyway, I was able to move back into my earlier apartment. Thankfully, the landlord hadn't rented it to anyone else. I did have a lease, but I did not want to keep paying rent and had come to an agreement with the landlord to sublet the apartment for month to month till I'm back. Being back in my space, I feel much more calm. I also met with my ex. After the initial blasting, he called me yesterday asking if we could meet. I wanted to get some more clarity too, and agreed. He came over, finally got a babysitter, and we had a good talk. He apologized for everything he said and demanded I do. He said it was a big, unexpected change for him too. He was scared and didn't know how to raise them, being a vacation dad. Having children home every day and thinking this was how it's going to be for the rest of his life, his words, had him terrified. I said I understood, but I cannot be a mom to those kids. I cannot take up his responsibilities. I want to help, but not in that capacity. I needed boundaries. He said he expected as much. He agrees he should never have asked so much of me. He asked if I could help him still, that the kids missed me and asked when I will be back. He needed me. And I refused. I told him I will help him. I will come around sometimes when I can, as a friend of Dad's would. But I won't move back in. I won't be a stepmom. He asked if I was breaking up with him. The truth is, I don't know. I do love him, but it won't work out in the long term. And everything he did and said is still raw on my mind. I said as much to him. I can't be in a committed relationship with him. I won't go anywhere. I will help and support as much as I can, but as a friend. I guess we are ending that relationship. I met the kids this morning. I went over there with some pancakes. They asked when I was coming back to live with them. I told them I have my own home to take care of, but I will visit them when I can. While surprised, they seemed to be accepting the situation. They had questions, of course, but accepted I will just be Daddy's friend. His daughter asked if I could still be her best friend. I agreed. I guess that won't be too hard. She gave me a hug before he took them to school and daycare. I actually feel so much better too. This was a role I can deal with. I don't know if it's the right way. I hope it works. Thank you for all your replies and guidance. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called A Green Sandcastle. It says, "Wow, decided to check on you, and here this is. I have serious problems with how he just foisted the labor on anyone but himself. But I'm glad you're working on what really are your terms. Wishing you the best and for those kids." Another commenter called VMT7 says, "You're a very kind person. Your potential ex, on the other hand, I have very little respect for. I really can't get past the fact that he still asked for your help, even going so far as to ask when you will be back. Selfish down to his very core, unfortunately. I wish you the best of luck, and though it might be hard to say a final goodbye to all of them, I would seriously consider it." OP really needs to make a choice here. I know they're trying to set their boundaries and it sounds like it's going to be okay, but I have a feeling this guy's gonna try and shirk his responsibilities again and put them right back on OP as soon as things kinda, wear back down to where they were before. OP, remember, these kids aren't yours. You have no responsibility here. You're not married to this guy either, so you're not exactly family. If you want to take a step back, that's completely okay, and I don't think anybody here would say any different. This story comes to us from Motorby370. Am I the butthole for not inviting any of my siblings to my wedding? So I am 23 female, getting married in a few months, and I have a few significantly older siblings, 34 female, 36 male, 38 male, 38 male. All of them are now married, and since I was a teen when they got married and they had a child-free wedding, I was not invited to any of their weddings. My oldest sibling first had a child-free wedding, and then the others decided to follow. When my oldest brother got married, I was 10. So sure, I kinda get not inviting me, but I was still extremely upset. My oldest brother got married to a woman I really love, and I can't even witness it. The other brother got married when I was 12, so again, sure, get not inviting a 12-year-old, but I was very well-behaved child, and again, his sibling. My sister got married when I was 15. At first, she didn't want a child-free wedding, but all of the family members convinced her because, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing to be in a wedding where children don't bring havoc. So she decided for a cutoff to be 16. And when I asked, can I be a one exception since I'm 15 and your sister, she said no with a very serious tone. If we make an exception for you, what about the other children? It's not fair. I got upset and screamed that what is not fair is not participating in any of my siblings' weddings. My parents got upset with me and I got grounded. And lastly, my brother got married when I was 17. At that point, I didn't care. I knew there was going to be a child-free wedding, and that once again, I'm not invited. I didn't ask, beg. My step-cousin, who just turned 18, just made the cut, and I didn't. Well, as I said, I didn't care. I sent a quick congrats, and that's it. My parents got furious on why I didn't even congratulate them. I just ignored them and spent all the time in my room with my now soon-to-be husband. Since I'm getting married, I decided none of them are going to be there, since I wasn't allowed to be there too. When they didn't get the invitations, they all came to my house and demanded to know why they didn't get one. I simply explained, you didn't want me in your wedding, I don't want you in mine. I explained how hurt I was, that I was not able to see any of my siblings get married, and they should experience the same. They said their weddings had alcohol, so they didn't want any young, impressionable kids there. And I said all I wanted was to be included in the wedding part. I didn't care about the after party. Mom then started screaming again about how unfair I am, and how she wants all of her kids to be together on that beautiful day. Ironic. But I am not backing down. I firmly believe I'm not inviting them. Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called DrySandwich860. It says, not the butthole. It was cruel that they excluded you. Their comments about alcohol are ridiculous. It's not hard to keep alcohol away from children at events. They're making excuses. It's fair enough to have a child-free wedding. It's not only that young children may disrupt the event, it's also about cost. Including children can mean having to hire a larger, more expensive venue, and providing a lot more food, and catering is expensive. I have never heard of anyone excluding a close member of the family though. You were a sibling, not some high school friend's kid. It was a big deal that you were excluded. It was inappropriate and weird, and it's understandable that the result is you don't feel close to your siblings. Let your mother screech. It's not her wedding. You don't have to listen to her. Tell her she has communicated how she feels and the decision has been made. Then put the phone down or leave the room. If she wanted her kids to be together, she had plenty opportunities to make sure you were included and chose not to. Another user down below called HotRelationship7161 says, not the butthole. Seems pretty cut and dry to me. They didn't invite you and don't invite them. They brought that upon themselves. And making the cutoff 16 and not inviting you at 15 was just a dick move. Hope you have a wonderful wedding. Going off of that last comment, the whole cutoff at 16 and not inviting at 15, well, that was doubled down when they had the 18-year-old go to the other wedding when OP was 17. I mean, come on. They're purposely pushing OP out in that case. Ugh. OP, this is completely your choice, and your mom can stick her nose right back out of the situation because it's not her choice. OP updated this one, let's jump into that now. Alright, OP's update can be found on their profile, and it's called, Am I the butthole for not inviting any of my siblings to my wedding? It says, we talked the day after I made the post. I said that the only way I'm going to invite them is if they explain absolutely everything. Otherwise, no invitation. After some weird looks and silence, the truth came out. I am their cousin. My father's brother was raising me alone and died, so I was raised by my uncle. They do not know who my mother is. I was young, required a lot of attention, wasn't their sibling, so they kind of distanced themselves from me. My brother said that he even hated me sometimes. My parents sat there ashamed for never telling me. My cousin just looked awkward. I just left. We eloped. So after all the drama, we talked and realized we were doing the whole wedding thing because we thought the other wanted it. We were not against the idea of a flashy wedding, but calm day with just close people who were close to our hearts. So we did that. Just us and some of our friends. We are keeping the money for our dream country to visit. My parents had the audacity to get angry that there was no celebration, but I don't care, to be honest. It was a day for us. That's it. I hope the update was not disappointing. Special thanks to everyone writing me messages telling us that we were too immature to get married. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Outrageous Friend 298. It says, "Your family seems toxic." I mean, yeah, you're really not their sibling or children, but you are their family. And what the hell with child-free wedding? It is easy to just make an exception for family. They're just being a butthole. I hope you're happy. By the way, I guess now you need to call your mother, father, brother, sister to aunt, uncle, cousin. They literally don't think you are their family. They think you are just annoying responsibility. Just go no contact with them because they are really toxic. Holy crap, this story took a massive turn that I was not expecting at all. You're their cousin, but you're still their family. So their comments about hating you, that really makes them buttholes. OP, I'd say you really don't need these people in your life. No contact could be a really good thing. You can't choose who you're born to, you can't choose who raises you either. But once you get older, you can choose who your real family is. OP, I suggest you do that. Alright, this story with plenty of updates comes to us from Pink Monster XA. Am I the butthole for refusing to babysit the golden child's baby after he disowned me for being adopted? I, 20 female, was adopted when I was 16 by my half-brother and his wife, who were in their late 30s at the time. They already had 6 children when they adopted me, but it was never an issue. They have treated me like their own kid since they met me and later adopted me, so did all their other kids. Except for one, their golden child, who is only 4 months older than me. We will call him Chad. Chad has always been an insensitive butthole to literally everyone, including our other siblings. He would literally fistfight our older sister, say horrible and mean things to everyone, and get away with it. He also had extreme anger issues that would cause broken doors, holes in walls, etc. He also got to do everything me and my sister were never able to do. Got a free car, go out at night, etc. When we were still in school together during high school, he got up in front of our whole class here and told everyone I wasn't his sister and never would be. He then told me, in front of his friends, that I would never be a part of his family and I should just get over it, and walked off. This was not a one and done thing. He would keep doing this up until he moved out and I stopped seeing and talking to him. Golden Boy once again got the limelight of the family after he got married right after high school, moved out to his wife's family's house, and then had a baby, the first grandbaby. Since this happened, I have stayed far away from him as possible, only seeing him for family pictures every year because our mother asks. Recently, I decided to come forward to our mom about what he said and did because she was upset about how I was distancing myself from him. She basically pulled the "that's still my kid and it's my first grandbaby" card as the reason she wasn't going to be upset over it. I didn't really care, to be honest. I knew it wasn't going to change her mind on her kid anyway. Out of nowhere, I got a message begging me to come babysit for them because you're the only one who can deal with these kinds of babies because no one will help. Apparently, they are weaning their kid off of breastfeeding, and the baby is extremely clingy because of that. And the fact that the mom is a germaphobe who has basically isolated this kid since birth, it literally has only been held by like 6 people since it's been born. They know I don't sleep for the most part because I'm an insomniac with ADHD, and I also am not bothered by crying. For some reason, I can sit for hours with the baby crying, and it doesn't bother me. Can't tell if that's a blessing or a curse at this point. My sister is mad at me because apparently they haven't asked anyone else in the family for help but me, and everyone wants to go see this baby. Am I the butthole for not wanting to be around or take care of the baby because its father said that I'm not a part of his family? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Attempted Adult. It says, not the butthole. I would send them your hourly rates you will charge for the work. When Chad tries to pull the family card, say clearly that he has always publicly announced that you are not his sister and never will be, so you are only keeping Chad's word. The commenter definitely has a point. OP, you don't owe them anything and you don't have to go babysit. Now, OP has added a whole bunch of other updates to this, so let's just jump right into the first one. Alright, OP's update is titled, Update, Chad had burned the bridge for the last time. I want to say this, I read everyone's comments and it made me feel much better knowing my feelings on this whole situation are valid. I wanted to give an update that most of you may not like. After I posted, I ended up talking to 2 of my friends from high school. They were actually there during multiple occasions when Chad publicly said all that stuff. I talked with them for a little while. One of these friends actually came over almost weekly when I was still living at my parents' home, so she firsthand understands my family. We talked and we all mutually agree. I go this once, see if we can't mend things. If not, I can tell my mom and sister I tried, and we are done with the whole thing. And if the whole negative thing with my family keeps up, I will cut them off for good. So I accepted to go babysit. I went over to Chad's house around 8 p.m. As soon as I showed up, I was greeted by Chad's wife, who was extremely happy to see me. She was tired. You could just tell she had the I have a 1-year-old face going on. She talked to me for a few minutes about how happy she was I came over and how she was glad to be going out with Chad. I kinda just listened to her go on and on before she finally got to the baby. Let's call him Seth. She explained to me his night routine, feedings, etc. Nothing too big. Then she got to the end where she started going on about how he was having crying fits at night and how he wouldn't get to sleep until mid-morning. I was a little on that, but all babies have different routines, I guess. She then said they would only be gone about 4 hours and that they would be home around like 12:31 at the most. After this, Chad shows up from their room, literally starts talking to his wife, looks at me, and then just kind of looks me over for a minute and gives me a small wave and nod before heading out of the house. His wife follows and simply tells me to call or text if I need anything. For a minute, I was just stunned, but went to work to see Seth, which was odd because it was my first time seeing him in person and not in the photos that are hung around our parents' house. In person, he is the cutest little baby ever. He was fine the whole time and he only cried because there was no one in the room, not because of the weaning. By this time, it was around 11:30, almost 12. I would check the clock every few minutes just to see what time it was. 12:30 rolled around and I'm like, should I text them? And I'm like, no, let me give them another few minutes until I need to text them. I ended up texting both of them at 1, asking where they were because they did say that they would be home by now. I got no reply from either of them. They finally show up at 3 in the morning. I'm livid at this point, not even over having to take care of Seth for a longer period of time, but just because they never texted me back. Like, what if there was an emergency or something? They walk into the living room and I'm just like, I texted asking where y'all were and no one answered. And Chad's wife starts saying that, oh, Chad said it was fine and that it would only be an hour more. And I was just like, you know what? It's fine. Whatever. Seth is sleeping. She looks at me all weird and I rolled my eyes and say, it's not the weaning that's making him cry at night. He gets lonely. He's clingy. Just let him know you're in the room when he starts crying and he will go right back to sleep. I started to walk out with my stuff as I was right about to walk completely past Chad when I turned around and was like, so you aren't going to say anything to me after I looked after your kid for like 7 hours now? He snorted at me and was like, no, my wife is the one who talked me into this anyway. Pissed off at this point, I said, so this wasn't, I don't know, possibly a way to be able to apologize for high school? Or maybe all those other times you decided to outcast me from the family? Because I was under the impression that maybe you wanted to patch things up because of you asking me, of all people, to watch your kid. He sat there for a minute and just said, why should I apologize? Because literally nothing from high school has changed. Man, you really do need to just grow up and understand that me and my wife aren't going to cater to you like mom and dad did because you're adopted. You ain't our family and you won't ever be. At this point, I just got into my car and left. I ended up texting my mom about all of it, thinking she would get it in the morning when she woke up. No, of course, she had to be awake. She apparently told Chad's wife about the conversation we had about all the stuff Chad had said and done to me in school. Apparently, his wife felt bad because she had an adopted sister too and felt horrible that Chad had done and said all those things. Apparently, mom didn't know about Chad asking about the babysitting thing until now, and she started talking to the wife who is now upset. Apparently, she thought Chad would have changed since then and didn't think he would act the way he did when I left. I told my mom that I'm done with him and that if something ever happened with Seth, then I would be there, but I was done with them until that happens. The way things are going, I will most likely be cutting my whole family off because this isn't worth the stress anymore. OP added a little bit more context down in the comments. It says, he's the golden child. They would never cut him off. My older sister already said she would cut me off over it. My younger brother loves him because he let him get away with stuff all the time. So he would be upset and most likely just stop talking to me. The parents love him too much. We put out there that he's the golden child. The younger kids, I have no idea. If I cut off my parents, I wouldn't get to see them because of that. The only one who doesn't care is my older brother, who understands how manipulative Chad is and supports me. In the comment section, we have a comment from a user called Patterson's Old Lady. It says, you handled this great. You can defend your actions to your family and they can get off your back about Chad. So glad you don't need to cut off your family. OP responded and said, I'm hoping I won't have to. I mostly say this because I truly do love just about all my other siblings, and I don't want to have to pick and choose who to stay in contact with because of Chad, my mom, and my sister. With a reaction like you got from Chad this time, OP, I would never do anything for them ever again. I mean, even if they apologized at this point, you know what they think of you, and I'm pretty sure we know what you think of them as well. Anyway, let's get into your next update. This update's titled, Update, Mother is now ruining my time with the news of my other brother getting married. So, it has been a hot minute since I last updated on the whole Chad situation. It's mainly due to the surprising fact that my family, my mother and sister, not bugging me as much lately. The first day or two after the interaction with Chad was a bit hectic. Both of them were blowing up my phone, trying to get me to talk to them. Mostly my mom just making excuses for Chad, and my sister trying to basically just tell me to get over it. I ended up telling the both of them in text and over the phone that I was over it, and I would be cutting myself off completely from Chad and his little family. This sparked some anger, but my mother soon went quiet, and later my sister. Everything seemed to be going pretty good after that for a while. That was until a week later when my sister showed up unannounced at my apartment, demanding that I take the blessing of getting to be around Chad's sheltered child when no one else seemed to be able to. Basically acting like it was some huge honor that I was asked to babysit. I almost snapped. I wanted to call her a bee and to get off my property and not come back because I was just so sick of it. But I didn't. From my doorstep, I told her that if she wanted to see the baby so bad, Just go over and see it. It wasn't my issue to deal with. And I slammed the door in her face and watched her leave. It's been radio silence for a while now until earlier this week. I was scrolling on Instagram when I noticed that my oldest brother, the one that I get along super well with and supported me about cutting Chad off, his girlfriend of 4 years and the same age as me, are now engaged, and posted pictures of the proposal. I noticed the post had been made last week, but no one had told me, not even my mother. I texted my brother's girlfriend asking her about literally everything that was happening. She was surprised because my mother had said she had told everyone in the family about the wedding. She then told me that they would be holding a family meeting at my parents' house to talk about the wedding plans. I said, okay. The meeting was for today around dinner time. I showed up and walked into the house and noticed that a lot of stuff was different decoration-wise. My parents had our family photos all arranged around the living room, and a few random frames with multiple small photos in them as well. I noticed that they had replaced multiple small photos of specifically me from the frames, and replaced them with now pictures of Chad and his wife, and my older brother and his girlfriend. What were maybe 6 pictures of me on any of the walls, now were 2, a baby picture of me and my senior high school photo, that are now in the hallway, not even in the living room. I ignored it and didn't say anything. After a while, everyone showed up except for, of course, Chad, who my mom pulled the "he wanted to spend time with his baby" BS. They all started talking about the people plans of the part, aka people who were going to be key parts of the wedding cast. I tried my best to listen and take in all of what my brother's girlfriend was saying. I noticed by the end of it all, my name was literally never added into any of the main plans. I wasn't mentioned at all for anything in the plans. I started to question why I was there if I wasn't going to be in the main plans of the wedding. I was kinda like, why not just send me an invitation then? I went home and texted his girlfriend asking about what had happened at the little meeting. Apparently, my mother had told her that I wouldn't want to be involved in any of the wedding stuff, and that it wasn't my thing. She called me unfeminine, and that I wouldn't like doing any kind of bridal stuff because I'm not girly. She then said everything was set in stone now. My older sister is going to be a bridesmaid, and my little sister is to be a flower girl. My little brother will be the ring holder, and my other little brother and Chad will be groomsmen. And apparently, my mother also told her that because of what happened with Chad, that I shouldn't be sat at the family table, but at a guest table. I will just be another guest at the wedding. I didn't really say anything back because it hurt. It hurt that my mother would say that about me, that I wasn't feminine, and that just because I myself didn't do a lot of girly things in my spare time, I wasn't going to be able to enjoy doing something like a wedding or being a bridesmaid. I can't believe she would say that about me. To be honest, I don't know if I'm even going to go. The wedding is scheduled for the end of the year. It sounds stupid and petty, but this hurt me. It hurt that I'm being outcasted, most likely to do Chad once again. And as I am typing this, my sister is texting me about how she's helping plan all the bride stuff. Honestly, I'm going to leave it off at this for right now because I don't know how to even feel, if you know what I mean right now. In the next day or so, I might update when I feel up to it. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Captain Price Zero. It says, "What's your older brother's take on it? Does he know about you being excluded?" OP responded and said, "We had a small talk about it, but he's in a hard spot now, seeing as they have already finalized who they want on the wedding party. And I guess his fiance had already talked to everyone who she wants on her bridal team. The one thing he said that he's going to try and get changed is the table seating, because he thinks that what my mom said about the whole Chad thing is stupid. He said that he will try and get me back at the family table, just away from Chad and his family." Well, OP, I wouldn't be going to that wedding if I were you. Your mother's doing everything they can to get you cut off from the family, so like you said, I think it's time to cut the family out. You don't get to choose who you're born to, but you definitely can choose who your real family are. The next update from OP is a really short one. It's titled, Another Update, Chad's wife is pregnant again. I don't even know what to say. I didn't expect to update again so soon, but I just got the news from my older brother's fiance. Chad's wife is pregnant again. In the comment section for this one, there's one from a user called Alib615. It says, at this point, I'd really talk to your older brother. Tell him you love him and hope he has a happy life with this new wife, but you will no longer be dealing with any of the rest of your family. I'd block all of them but the older brother and fiance and go no contact. You deserve to find a real family who will love you unconditionally and include you without being told to. I'd also make it known how hurt you are that they decided to take your mother's word that you didn't want to be included in their wedding. I'd make it clear, since you aren't part of their family either, that you don't feel like being there. They chose who their family is by who they wanted at the family table at their wedding. I'm sorry to say. It's their wedding, they got to pick who to include, and I'm sorry to say you weren't on their list. They chose to hurt you too. Move away if you need to. Start over without these horribly toxic people. Be happy, they'll get theirs one day. Narcs always do. Also, about the pictures in your last post. I took all the photos of myself off my grandma's wall because she didn't deserve to brag about me being a part of that family. I set them on fire in her backyard and told her now she's rid of me forever and can focus on her real family. I never spoke to her until she was in hospice to say goodbye. I know that dramatic exits aren't everyone's cup of tea, but it was very cathartic for me to make a scene when I left after not saying anything for so long. OP, this pregnancy has nothing to do with you, and I think it's safe to say you can just ignore it and ignore them. OP's next update is titled Update, Slowly Trying, but Not Going Great. It's been a minute since I updated. I would say it's because everything is going great, but I would be slightly lying. Things have only mildly gotten better for me since the last update. I have moved even farther away from my parents since the last few updates, in part to hopefully try and start a process of trying to cut them off from my life. This has worked a bit, but not enough to actually make me feel any better. They, mostly my mother, have still decided to take time to bother me and showing up at my new place, and only giving me a second of a heads up. There is no update concerning the wedding. I have only gotten an invitation through the mail. I'm not going to try and press it anymore. I'm going to go, but I will most likely leave after the ceremony and not stay to hang out with anyone. Chad's situation has grown only by the fact that over a group chat, they decided not to have any kind of gender reveal or even a baby shower. They just announced that they are now having a girl. Don't want to be a butt, but Chad's wife stretched the fact that Chad had randomly made her get up and go get an ultrasound to find out the gender. She acted like she really didn't want to do it. Apparently, they went to one of those fancy ultrasound places where you get fancy models of the fetus and high-tech ultrasound pics. Chad also announced that he is going to college now and asked for a $1,000 loan, which they gave to him. They have always stressed that they will never loan money to any of their kids. My stomach turned when they happily gave him the money, but they wouldn't lend me $20 for school books when I went to college. They refused to help me get into college. I muted the group chat. I also found out that my sister has possibly outed me to mom. I came out when I was in high school as being bisexual with a preference for women. This didn't go well, to be honest, as my mom pulled, "I have a lesbian cousin who is married to a woman," followed up by a homophobic story about how her friend traumatized her in college by taking her to a gay bar, and she got hit on by another female. Not great. My brother fully believes that my love for women is trauma-based because of the abuse I faced from our biological father. My heart was broken when all of this came to the surface, knowing that they both truly wouldn't support me. They would only lie to my face about being uncomfortable by my life. I basically promised myself that I would never tell them if I got a female partner, in hopes of saving not only my feelings, but my partner's feelings in the long run. It makes me extremely uncomfortable to think about them looking me in the eyes and believing everything that they told me concerning their feelings about my lifestyle. I fear my sister has told our mom about me dating a female now that I have moved further away from them, something that I never did while I was in the house living with them. I noticed on my girlfriend's Instagram, my sister had liked one of the pictures of me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend, after hearing all of this, supports me about not posting pictures of us, seeing as she knows that my family follows me on Instagram. My girlfriend has not tagged me in any pictures on Instagram, so my sister had been looking through my friend on Instagram. Not even a week after the photo was liked, I had to see my sister in person for something. She started to make awkward comments about my dating life and if I was seeing anyone, which I only said maybe and left it at that. 2 days later, my mom is showing up at my front door with some store-bought cookies, asking me if there's anything I want to tell her. I brushed her off and didn't say anything. She then left and hasn't said anything else to me. A few hours later, my little brother texts me asking if I had told mom about me dating, because she is apparently going crazy, and about how his dad is just telling her that it's just a trauma response. I haven't told anyone about me dating, so clearly someone told her about me dating, especially the fact that they are bringing up that I'm dating a female. I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point, as I am trying my best to cut them off. My girlfriend is telling me not to think about it too much and that we can get through it together. I honestly don't know where I would be without her at this point, because she is the only one keeping me sane throughout this entire transition. This update isn't anything grand, but it is something. I wish I could fully say that my life is getting better, but it's really only getting better at a snail's pace. At the moment, all I can say is thank you to everyone who's been supporting me throughout all of these updates. Everyone's input has actually made me see how messed up and how wrong my family has been treating me, and how I shouldn't be letting them continue to lead my life and invalidate my feelings. I hope to update after the wedding in a few months. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Dinwee. It says, "Sometimes it is better to cut them all off at once and take a couple years to mourn than to do it piece by piece. I'd reach out to brother who is getting married and confirm with him whether you're even welcome as a guest, and then just send them a gift and a card. If they want a relationship with you, best to organize it beforehand so you can keep them separate from the rest of the family. I know you want to go, but please be mindful of what might benefit your mental health more. That said, reading the story from beginning to now, you're doing really well, and I'm proud of you. I wish you luck." I don't know, I still think I wouldn't go to that wedding. I just wouldn't want to put up with the crap, especially knowing that the rest of the family was going to be there, and just the way they've been treating you in the past. OP's next update is titled, "Clearing Things Up Before I Update." It's been a really long time. I can't believe it's been over a year since I've updated or posted anything on here. Life has really taken over, and I can't believe how long it's actually been. One of my friends who knows about my posts recently told me that apparently my posts and stuff have hit TikTok. I was surprised when they told me about the huge reactions I was getting over there. I honestly never thought anyone would actually be interested in any of this stuff. I thought I would just post and leave, that no one would be interested in my effed feelings and family. But apparently not, and I am back to give you guys an update. I do want to go over some things that I have been seeing people saying, and I kind of want to address it. First, I've seen a lot of people thinking and saying that none of the other kids knew that I was their blood half aunt, and that their parents kept them in the dark. That is not true. They knew before they even met me what was up. They were only going to foster me until I aged out if the kids were not okay with me being adopted. Chad lied, I guess, when this was discussed. I don't think Chad liked me from the very beginning, and that's why I ultimately think he lied. Maybe it's because he wanted to F with me mentally so that he could bully me. Chad was a bully in general. I also feel confident in finally speaking about what happened. My bio half-brother never met our father. His mother was a drug addict who got pregnant with him as a minor and eventually lost rights because she was drinking and doing drugs and not taking care of him. Our father was also a drug addict who was also abusive. He beat me and my mother for years. Sadly, my mother took her life in front of me when I was 14. If that wasn't enough, my father was also dying of stage 4 cancer, so I was taken into DCFS custody and put into foster care. I spent almost 3 years in there before I was fostered by my half-brother and his family before being adopted. My father died 4 days after my 17th birthday. I have also seen people saying, why did she keep going back? It's simply because I know from going to therapy that I have abandonment issues. I don't have many friends, and I don't have a great support system at all. I thought that I could somehow ride it out, as stupid as that sounds now. The issues my family was putting on me, and it could somehow be fixed. Now I see that I can't. I can't do anything because they are all set in their own ways. I also know that a lot of people are dead set on me pulling the I'm the aunt card, but I don't feel like doing that. I was raised beside them as equals. I never wanted to be held to that extreme of being an aunt. I just wanted to feel like a normal kid, to have siblings when I was given the chance to. Just because Chad is a dick doesn't mean I should be pulling the bio half aunt. The other kids see me as a sister. I feel joy in hearing my little siblings call me sissy, sis, big sister. And even the oldest call me his sister. I love calling them my little brothers, big brother, and big sister, little sister. I'm not sorry if anyone else finds a problem with that. The only villains of all of this have been my half-brother, his wife Chad, and his older sister. All the other kids have never said or treated me any differently. OP, I think you're missing one because it sounds like your mother was trying to push you out of things as well, because your mother was coddling Chad. I mean, come on. Alright, OP's final update, which is from 8 days ago, titled, Update, It's Been a While. I did go to the wedding, and it was beautiful. I ultimately got seated with some family friends, but one of my little brothers and his girlfriend ended up switching the seat names and sat with me as well. It was an amazing ceremony. I did end up ignoring my older sister for half of the night. After the ceremony, Chad immediately walked off for a few minutes, ripping his tie off, and went to his wife, who, surprise, did not have Seth with them or their other baby, who they named Emily. I don't want to sound rude, but Chad's wife dressed extremely down. As most of his were wearing suits and nice dresses, she was wearing a tacky cactus-themed dress. This was an expensive wedding. I mean, out the butt kind of stuff. We were told ahead of time to dress extremely nice for this wedding. I wish I could say that everyone making the huge fuss about the table seating was right. I comically wish that I could tell you guys that I went bat crap crazy and just started effing threatening people and stuff, throwing tables, making a scene. Well, I can't, because it might shock you, it might not what happens next. Chad and his wife go, well, we would love to stay, but we have to get home to the kids. We left them with, insert wife's mom's name, who now lives with them, and we should just head home to be safe, before just walking away from everyone. Everyone was shocked for a good hour once we all started to be seated in the dining hall. They didn't even say goodbye to bride or groom before just walking off and leaving. Mind you, it was a 30-minute drive to the venue and the wedding was about maybe an hour in, which they were late to anyway. They showed up about 20 minutes before the ceremony started. They didn't even stay for the speech or food, let alone dancing. My feelings were a bit mixed after that. Although Chad wasn't around to ruin the rest of my night celebrating, it still dented it. I spent the night having fun with new friends, eating and talking with my little brother's girlfriend, and finally, drinking and dancing on the dance floor. It was, overall, a great time. I have since parted ways, kinda, with my half-brother and mom, along with my sister. My sister has tried to make small attempts to mend our relationship, though I still do not know if I will ever forgive her for outing my queer relationship to her parents when it was made evident that it wasn't a good idea. We occasionally text each other and send random memes and videos. It's something, I guess. My bio half-brother has made it extremely clear that he is still extremely uncomfortable by my lifestyle. I can't really hold a conversation with him anymore, as he makes things very political and controversial. It's to the point where I can't even ask him, hey, what shows have you been watching on TV for small chat, without him going on a borderline homophobic or transphobic rant. because he can't stand LGBTQ+ characters in shows or even movies. I have since borderline blocked him. Mom is the same as she was before. I think she tries to block out most of me. You know how people will look at you with dead eyes, like they aren't even there when you talk to them? That's what it's like talking with her half the time. She still makes an effort to talk to me and keep up with everything I'm doing, but I slowly have grown more distant from her as I no longer want to continue with the way she makes me feel and her negative aura. Something about her just no longer makes me want to be around her. Chad and his wife have made no effort to talk to me again, though I do not care much anymore. I have not blocked him as he has not tried to call or message me. I will simply try and ignore him if he does. I haven't seen Seth since my babysitting him or met Emily. I doubt I will, and as bad as it sounds, I don't care if I ever do. I am not his family, so I do not care anymore. I want to say a quick thank you to everyone who has been supporting me throughout this whole thing. In a sad sense, I want to tell you that this will be my last post, at least I hope. I am now in therapy and I am living to the best of what I can. I want to hope that I will never have to deal with Chad again, and I won't have to deal with most of my weird family, but I know on some level I might have to. My therapist says it may take years for me to overcome a lot of the feelings and emotions that I have toward my entire family. I'm only hoping that one day I can truly sort out my feelings about this family in general. I might update in a few months when I have family pictures. Until then, I will be trying to continue the life that I have started without them constantly in my ear. Opie added an edit at the bottom of this one. It says, edit, putting it out there. I maybe talk to any of them 2 to 3 times a month at most. I'm currently working to cut them out at my own pace. Me and my therapist are working at this. Therefore, as I do read comments, I won't care if anyone continues to make comments about me not leaving or cutting them off completely. Both that and this arc in my life have caused me trauma. I am working on myself under the guidance of a professional. For my own mental and physical health, I'm going at my own pace. Thank you. Well, OP, there's not a whole lot here we can say wrapping this one up because I think you just said it yourself. You're going at your own pace. You are working them out of your lives, but you don't want to take them out completely, it sounds like. And that is okay too. But just make sure that you keep on going to this professional, because I think the longer they're in your life, the more they're going to cause you mental anxiety. This one comes to us from Guilty Oven 2939. Am I the butthole for asking my parents to please leave the parenting of their grandson up to me and my wife, yet not doing the same with my in-laws? Ugh, let's jump right in. I, 26 male, have a 3-month-old son with my wife, 24 female. He's our first child. I have a good relationship with my parents, however, they, especially my mom, have a difficult time respecting my boundaries, and they were a bit overprotective of me growing up. I am their only child, so naturally they are going to feel protective of me. While I wouldn't go as far as to describe my mom as a helicopter parent, she seemed to have a hard time allowing me to make mistakes. She would want to have a say in anything I was doing, and offer advice whether I wanted it or not. When I was little, this was totally understandable, but as I grew up it became very annoying. When I moved out, I told her that now that I'm grown up, she needs to respect my boundaries as well as accept that I might do certain things differently from how she does. I've requested that she please ask me if I want help or advice with something, and to please respect my wishes if I say no. She seems to have a very hard time with this. She'll reluctantly say she'll try to do that, but honestly, I don't think she's making enough effort. We've argued about this many times. It really feels like she doesn't trust me. When my son was born, I asked both of my parents to please leave the parenting up to me and my wife, and if we need help, we'll ask. They agreed, though my mom seemed reluctant, not surprised. Now, I didn't think it was my place to ask my in-laws to do this because they're her parents, not mine. I told her that if she would like her parents' help and advice with raising our son, it was fine with me, and the decision of how much or how little involvement her parents had was up to her. I am also more comfortable with my wife's parents because she's the youngest of 4 children, and therefore they have more experience as parents. They know when it's appropriate to offer help and when they should take a step back. Anyways, today we're having a barbecue for the 4th of July. We invited both of our families. It was the first time we've all been in the same room since our wedding. My mom saw how much my in-laws were helping with our son, feeding him, changing him, putting him down for a nap, etc. They're mainly doing this because my wife is busy in the kitchen. My parents took me aside and asked why I want my in-laws' help but not theirs. I told her the reasons. Dad took it pretty well. He enjoys being a fun grandpa. But my mom is very hurt. Now, I feel bad. I was looking forward to a fun day with our families, but now I'm feeling guilty. My mom basically is just standing around doing nothing and looks hurt. My feelings of wanting her to leave the parenting up to me and my wife hasn't changed, but I don't know how to express this without upsetting her. Honestly, I'm kinda wishing everyone would just go home. Am I the butthole for telling my parents to leave the parenting up to me and my wife, yet leaving the decision on how much my in-laws are involved up to my wife because I didn't feel it was my place? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Gordy Hippo. It says, "It's one thing to say that you want your parents to stay out of any parenting decisions, but it sounds like you've pretty much asked them to not lay their hands on your son. Feeding and changing are basic care. Why can't they help with that? It sounds like your mom is trying to stay within the boundaries you've set, but is upset that your in-laws don't have the same or any boundaries. I can understand why she's upset. Your children are your parents' only chance to be grandparents, and you've decided they're not going to get much of a chance to do anything. You complain that your mom was too controlling in your childhood. It seems the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Find a better balance, you're the butthole." Another commenter down below called Worldly Science is on the other side of this one. It says, "I'm going to go with not the butthole. Some people don't know when to quit, so it's best not to let them get started. It could also be in how the advice is delivered. We tried to let all of our parents do the same things with our son, but it wasn't working out. Some weren't good with safety, some ignored how we wanted things done, etc. It sounds more like your mom doesn't treat you as an adult, or at least struggles to, and your wife's family doesn't have that issue. That is going to cause some problems. I would maybe sit down with your mom and tell her as she gets better with understanding and respecting boundaries, you two, 3 with your wife, can reevaluate what you're comfortable with." So now let's bring this one down to the audience. Do you agree with commenter number 1, where OP is the butthole because the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree? Or do you agree with commenter number 2, where OP is not the butthole because mom is being overbearing? Let me know in the comment section down below. This one comes to us from Strict Limits 9377. "Am I the butthole for stopping payments on my child's apartment and not paying for their way to our family vacation? I have several children and their mother is no longer in the picture. While raising them as a single parent, I've always told them that I will pay for their college so they won't graduate with debt. But there are strings attached. The main one is that they have to pick degrees that will support their lifestyle. The other main stipulation is that I will continue to support them for a year after when they are on their own. My eldest graduated last year with a degree with which I wholeheartedly disagree. We've had heated discussions about their career choice while they were in school, but I was unsuccessful at getting this child to change their mind due to their passion for this field. They are now working in a field that pays about $65,000 a year with a career ceiling of approximately $85,000. There is not a path to make more in this career in our city and state. I bought them a car as a graduation gift and have been paying for the insurance and maintenance. I've also allowed this child to use my account at the grocery store. I've also been paying my child's $5,000 a month apartment rent and utilities since last year, and now their lease is coming up and they want to re-sign it. When they came to me a couple of days ago, I reminded them it's been a year and now they're on their own. We got into a heated discussion which boils down to they can't afford to live in the city while working at their jobs. They would have to move so far out that they'll have to find another job during a time when the market is not great. I refused to budge as they knew this was coming, and I wanted to make sure my other kids know I'm serious about them earning their own way through life. During our discussion, I dropped the other shoe that they're responsible to pay their own way from now on, which includes our family reunion vacation next summer. They argued there's no way they can afford to pay for everything, including a 2-week vacation in Europe, on their salary, and begged me to reconsider. I refused. This child called their grandparents, aunts and uncles, my parents' sisters and brothers to try to get them to change my mind. My other kids are staying out of it, but the rest of the family is even split. Half thinks I should continue to pay since I can easily afford to, while the other half agrees with my sink or swim decision. Am I being too strict? Jumping down to the comment section, we have one from a user called Callie the Blaze. It says, I'd say pay for the family vacation if family is important to you. Vacations are a luxury, and so is family time with your adult kids. Your generation has significantly better earnings than your children's generation. If the point of a family vacation is family time, shouldn't you want your kids to be able to come? Is it really family time if some of the family gets left behind when you can easily bring them? Side note, my parents did well financially and they still pay for my sister and I to join on family vacations because we weren't as lucky as they were. I'm turning 40 this year. My parents believe the point of family vacations is for us to be together, and we'd be very limited on where we could go and for how long if my sister and I were paying our own way. My husband and my nephew are included in this. As for the apartment, it sounds like you were quite clear about the terms of your support, and your daughter had plenty of warning that she needed to learn to live within her means. So I think greatly scaling back or ending your support for her basic living expenses makes sense. I'm finding myself wondering where the last year's salary went without housing costs to pay. So not the butthole for the apartment, but think about what the purpose of a family vacation is for your family. Another commenter called VisibleT2734 brought up a really good point. It says, mixed, you're the butthole and not the butthole. You're the butthole for not teaching this person how to function on their own and for paying for everything for all this time. But not the butthole for cutting the purse strings now. You must do that, and I think it's the most irresponsible thing wealthy people do to their children. Not teach them how to finance their own lives without their parents' money. I have a feeling I know what the comment section's gonna look like for this one, so let's see it. Comment down below whether you think OP is a butthole or not the butthole in this case, or do you divide it up like the second commenter did, where OP is the butthole for not teaching their kids how to function on their own, and they're not the butthole for cutting them off because they gave them so much notice. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. This one comes to us from Exotic Struggle 9874. Am I the butthole for having an outburst at my girlfriend's little sister and banning her from staying with us? This situation sucks and I need a third-party perspective. I've lived with my girlfriend Sarah for 2 years now. Sarah has a 16-year-old sister, Tara. Tara lives with their parents, but Sarah and Tara have a very rocky relationship with their parents. Nothing too bad, but it's toxic nonetheless. For the last 6 months or so, Tara has begun staying over at the apartment that me and Sarah share. I've always been somewhat uncomfortable with this, mainly because it's common for Sarah, who works from home, to let Tara skip school and come spend the day with her. She says it's better than her being on the streets, but I digress. My biggest problem is that Tara trashes the place and has no respect for me. Tara does not like me. I don't know why. Sarah does not know why. She is incredibly disrespectful to me and my things, eats my food despite being told not to on a nearly weekly basis, and borrows things from the apartment with no intent to ever return them. I've been at my wit's end over this for the last month, and I feel like Tara is testing my limits more and more. I've talked to both of them and let them know if something doesn't change soon, I will lose my cool. But every conversation ends with Sarah committing to things that never happen, and Tara being non-committal or just disinterested in my feelings. It came to a head Friday. Sarah had gotten off work early and left Tara alone. I came home to the place absolutely trashed. This I could handle. What I could not was that Tara had pulled out some of my vinyl to listen to, scratched them to crap, and just left them out on the table and ground when she got bored. When I confronted her and asked her what happened, she just shrugged her shoulders and said nothing. I absolutely lost it. I told her exactly what I thought of her, how she was selfish, ungrateful, lazy, and downright unpleasant. I made the comment that if this is how she is at home, I now know why her parents don't want her in their house. I could tell she was taken off guard by my yelling, and the parents' comment caused her to start crying. I kicked her out and told her not to come back. Sarah lost it and we fought. We've been pretty cold since then. She's talking about moving out, but at this point, I'm starting to consider that myself. Last night, however, Sarah finally decided to tell me that Tara tried to run away last year and she made a deal with her that our apartment could be her safe space whenever she needed it, so she didn't run away again. I still don't feel like this makes what she did right, but at the same time knowing this, I'm starting to feel bad. Am I the butthole? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Solid Cordon. It says, not the butthole. Your girlfriend didn't tell you that she was declaring your home a safe space and did nothing to encourage Tara to behave like a guest rather than a squatter. Tara needs more than just a safe space. Safe space doesn't mean you can trash the place. I couldn't find a comment saying that OP is the butthole, so let's go to this one from user OKKnee1216 that says, girlfriend is the butthole. She cannot decide safe space without talking to her SO. Alright, so down in the comment section below, who's the butthole in this case? Sarah or Tara? Let me know what you guys think. This one comes to us from Trash Girlfriend. Will I be the butthole if I go on vacation instead of my brother's wedding? Ooh, okay. My brother Tom, 36 male, and I, 26 female, have never had a really solid relationship. Due to our age gap, we didn't spend much time, and by the time I was old enough to develop a personality, he was moved out of the house. For the last 2 years, my brother and his fiancée Sarah, 32 female, have been planning their wedding, and it's coming up in September. I was asked to be a bridesmaid. I figured I was only asked as a courtesy since I'm her soon-to-be sister-in-law, but I still took it seriously. I have been a bridesmaid for the last 2 years. Just a few weeks ago, I managed to save up to buy the $800 bridesmaid dress. Overall, in the last 2 years, between group outings to parties, dinners, lunches, clothes, etc., I spent thousands of dollars. Eventually, all the girls in the wedding and I became extremely close, and I started to get hyped for the wedding. Sarah recently got close with her brother's wife Becky, 30 female. Last week she dropped the ball on me that she no longer wants me to be a bridesmaid and she would prefer if Becky would take my place. It broke my heart a little, but it's her wedding and it's not my place to tell her how to run it, so I said it was fine. Yesterday, I went to my brother's house to pick up the bridesmaid's dress and was going to see if I could return it since it was within the time frame. Sarah was completely appalled and said that Becky was going to wear it since she and I are the same size. I said that would be fine, but they would have to pay me the $800 for it. Sarah said that Becky couldn't afford and I should just be nice and let her use it, and said that I could keep it after the wedding. I explained that I'm not just giving away the dress, and I'm not ever going to use it after the wedding. After some bickering back and forth, I just ended up taking it and leaving. My brother and Sarah tried to compromise with me and say I could be the assistant flower girl, and I felt offended at the offer. After I said no, then they said that Becky could give me $250 for it. Again, no, and I returned the dress and got a full refund. I told them I understand that it's their wedding, but they are being extremely disrespectful to me, and I don't need to deal with it, and I'm not going to the wedding. Today, my coworker says she has an extra round-trip plane ticket to go to Miami that she'll sell to me for half price. Plus, I would have to pay for half the hotel, and I can go hang out with her in Florida. The only downside is that I'll be in Florida for the week of my brother's wedding. So will I be the butthole if I just go party in Miami instead of going to my brother's wedding? Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called AntiMam69. It says, "Not the butthole. Go to Miami. A wedding is not an event where a soon-to-be sister-in-law and your own brother crap all over you and you smile and take it." Another commenter down below called Crystal Queen 3000 says, "Not the butthole. They treated you with such disrespect that even if you didn't have a better offer, not going to the wedding is still the right choice." And one more from the comment section, SlightBar534 says, "Not the butthole. Take the $800 from the dress return, buy a couple new bathing suits, and enjoy Miami." I can pretty much guarantee that nobody is going to say that OP is the butthole, but if you can find some reason in this story to say that OP is, I'd love to see it in the comment section down below. But let me know what you think. Is OP the butthole or is OP not the butthole? And should they just go enjoy their time in Miami? I think they should, but what do you think? Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.